Gaming Coop, the best space to talk about games that are just weird. Let's introduce today's players. Player 1, it's all ogre now, it's Matt. To the Gaming Coop, the best space to talk about games that seem fun until your friends fuck you over. Very excited Let's introduce today's players. Guest here tonight, Player 1 was the best thing before that hottie toddy sliced bread showdown. It's Anthony.
Bro.
When will they return
Player
what is
2
rightly
would
ours?
dip her own cat into olive oil. It's Kelsey. Player 3 is a semi-aquatic egg. Who are these hip hoppers and why are they called Four Town if there are 5 of them? It's Chris. You can tell by the way he uses his walk. Player 4 is a gamer man. No time to talk. It's Walsh. He's writing my intro. It's Chris. Player 5. I can make a lowbrow joke based on his game in this segment, but I won't. It's Anthony. Our favorite farmer.
Good.
With iridium. And player 6 is best when creamed together with the butter, white sugar, and brown sugar until smooth. Beat in the eggs one at a time. Dissolve baking soda in hot water.
It was just like I saw it. I was just like,
batter along with salt. Stir in flour.
If you had to
chips,
guess how would you pronounce it without having the phonetic?
Onto ungreased pans, bake for about 10 minutes. It's Matt. With the ER.
Yeah,
Shit,
no, iridium. That's fine. That works too.
I didn't think of iridium.
I thought you were gonna be like iridium, or did you drink it all?
I guess I could have.
Oh,
no, I'm so sorry.
Sorry
that
cookie
recipe.
It's true. That is absolutely true.
Good.
I now know when Walsh writes yours because I can pick out the film references.
We wish him well.
Yes.
Be back.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for joining us.
I think everyone has a shtick
we're still
that they latch on to.
I just come up with chaos.
Me too, actually. To be honest, I don't really have I'll have a trend.
We're still.
Anyways, welcome everyone
to donate to abortion funds and send them our way. So I just want
everyone here.
That. So
it is. I actually forgot. This is 2 years since we
had
an episode. I completely forgot until I said that.
3, 2, 1.
Do we have anything special planned? I don't know. I didn't talk to Walsh ahead of time about what the mid-segment is.
I did the obligatory clap.
We don't maybe love or hate.
There you go.
We just
anyways, we have a fun one for today. We're gonna talk about party games.
I don't know.
Of course, it's a
celebration
because we've been doing this for 2 years.
I cannot.
We're gonna start with a game that
came out
recently, a game
we're
that
gonna start
myself and Gabe have been super into, and Gabe is gonna go to talk about it.
Shrek 2.
Gabe, what's Kirby's Dream Buffet?
Again, Matt?
PS2, GameCube, Xbox.
Is a wonderful little party game that came out last week, was it?
Our resident Shrek.
Please
take it away.
About that, yeah.
I thought love was only true in fairy tales.
It's like 5 days.
Meant for someone else, but not for me. I'm stopping there. It's under 30 seconds. It's fine.
Nintendo flavor.
All right, so for the viewing audience, I just finished a production where I played the titular ogre himself. In Shrek the musical, so I have a very fresh perspective on this franchise as a whole, and the Shrek 2 video game especially, which I played the hell out of when I was a kid.
If it's your style,
Shrek 2 is the movie tie-in game to Shrek 2. And it's not the weirdest thing in the world, but you get a general sense of weirdness just in general from it being Shrek. And you kind of play through a lot of stuff from the movie, but it's adjusted a little bit to kind of like make it make sense in a video game setting. Basically, all of the levels are depicted as chapters of a storybook because it's Shrek. That's what they do. And then each level kind of has its own thing. Each level has 4 playable characters because it's one of those games where like you could play it with 4 people if you had 4 controllers.
The game overall is very charming
for that console. And each character has like their own general capabilities.
From other
Shrek, Donkey, Fiona, Puss in Boots, all those characters are there. And then some characters like the Big Bad Wolf and Gingerbread Man, who aren't super big characters in the movie. I guess Gingy kind of is, but kind of get a spotlight in the video game.
Definitely a big character in the movie is Gingerbread Man.
Well, that's a different character. That's Gingy's friend. I think Mondo.
Oh, I did not realize that.
That's his name? Yeah.
Wow, Chris, you're such
Mongo.
a plebe.
He listens.
Mongo. Yes, Mongo.
Been multiple decades.
because
it's
that much
so
fun.
you kind of go through the story. I would say the most iconic levels to me are the ones that have Shrek, Donkey, and Puss in Boots.
Really vibing with
just because I think that they're the best the best laid out levels. Because they all kind of like I said, each character has their own special ability. For me, they're the triangle button ability because you have to press the triangle button to use them. Shrek can pick things up and put them down and or throw things. Donkey has a special thing called the Burrow Blast, which he just kind of fucks things up with. And then Puss in Boots can climb a tightrope things.
So very much enjoy.
I guess they're just called tight ropes.
Nintendo
and it makes for some really good platforming.
Well, and I think a lot of indie.
Also, every level has something called hero time, and each character has a hero time.
They do such a good job.
I think the only one getting multiple being Shrek himself
is phenomenal. The textures on everything
makes sense.
Really good.
And it's just like it's a special thing either in the middle of the level or the end of the level where the character gets just like a special feature.
Like the most amazing piece of hardware out there at this point, but
I think the strangest level in the game, and one that really isn't like
this game where everything
part of the movie,
so
is Jack and Jill's farm,
rolling around on
where the three little pigs are there. And they have the worst German accents that you've ever heard, but they are watching over the farm for Jack and Jill.
I don't know what the right way to phrase
and
that.
you need to complete tasks around the farm.
It's such a good time.
Some of the tasks
and I think
that
it
you
celebrates
need to complete
Kirby, every aspect of Kirby that you love. If you have one particular,
if I can remember correctly, I played this a little
Kirby
bit ago,
and really nothing else.
like a few weeks ago when I got cast.
There. And even in its gameplay, the fact
one
that
is like this chicken coop mini game where chickens are literally like pooping out eggs and you have to move the basket
it's more like this
in the right timing so that the eggs fall in the basket and whoever gets the most eggs wins. Gingy's hero time is like running by these giant ass tomatoes, kind of platforming around them.
There's like these character treats that you can
There's a Jack and the Beanstalk based boss fight.
These character treats are
there's a lot of weird stuff. But I always remember Jack and Jill's farm being the most memorable just because of the weird stuff there.
Kirby games are included.
There's also a prison break level where you have to like in the movie where you have to break the gate out of prison. And this one is notable because for some reason they decided not to make Pinocchio a playable character, even though Pinocchio has that most famous part in that scene where he's like,
is that Rick?
He has to tell a lie, so they tell him to say something like, say I'm wearing women's underwear, and then he says I'm wearing women's underwear, and his nose doesn't grow.
And that's like from a range of different
because that was funny in 2004.
The many years of this series,
But instead, they put this random ass fairy character in.
A few months since then, and
who's like not in the movie. They're literally just a fairy when they could have had Pinocchio.
Great way with having the game's first 3D platform.
Is it the Exposition Butterfly?
Favorite games of all time.
Not the Exposition Butterfly. It was a fairy.
Just like a celebration type thing. That's really cute. And so, I think it's definitely repetitive.
There is really no.
You go through a race and then you do a mini game. Then you go through another race and then you do a battle royale.
I don't know because they use Pinocchio enough, and Pinocchio appears as a little bit of a cameo. I don't know why it would be copyright reasons.
Because
I'm just thinking with someone
it's like a
from
good
Disney
hour or two.
That's our Pinocchio or whatever the fuck. Because
the first day that we had.
You know how right now there's a bunch of Pinocchio movies being made because the copyright's almost up.
It was just a
lot
of fun.
And Disney just wants to
each round is deceptively short. Like you can get a ton of games in a good amount of time.
Being made.
Right, and I think that's why the repetitive.
Where can I be on my own? I have the whole world.
So I was just curious if maybe someone, some weird lawyer at Disney was just kind of like, you can't put Pinocchio in it.
Maybe that's the reason I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, it's weird.
To 100% the game, there's these objectives called snapshots.
They get little bonuses at the end.
There's about 7 per level.
If you eat more blueberries than other people, you get extra stars at the end.
Most of them are done just by completing the story, but one that's really
difficult
is the 12 magic beans. And there are 12 magic beans hidden throughout each level, and you have to find them. And I swear to God, that is the hardest part of the game. The second hardest part of the game is the final boss fight against Fairy Godmother.
Is just kind of built
because it is a 4-phase fight, and if you die at any point, you have to start again at the beginning.
But this
and her moves in the last section
it's really balanced in that way, but it's also
about a half of your health bar.
God damn it.
So you really have like 8 lives between the 4 characters, because if a character goes down at any point, you automatically switch to another character.
That's kind of
you can switch between characters at any point and to do like their own specific thing. And it's really well designed in that way, actually. But I was playing it yesterday and I got mad, so I was like, oh, I'll just beat it tomorrow, and then I didn't play it today. So
you're just like,
I didn't end up beating it, but it's fine. The movie scene is better, of course.
It's adorable.
One of the best sequences in any movie.
Is
the I Need a Hero sequence.
Right. Like, what's the status of the song during that?
I actually,
it's not. It's not. I Need a Hero.
Okay, is it good? At least
I do have the hamburger stage.
It's generic.
I think it might be number 1 or 2 because that
Holding out for
has a mix of like the barbecue-ness.
Is that actually the name of it?
Across the bacon.
It is, yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought it was
so much attention to detail in the
change the name.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
Oh wow!
All right. To end my segment,
that's Kirby's Buffet.
Unless anyone else has any commentary on Shrek 2 or the game, I know I didn't provide much screenshots or anything.
No,
if anyone else has anything to say right now.
I
Kelsey's
played
been
it.
Playing
I used to be a connoisseur.
Games that I also
Connoisseur.
There, damn it, Christopher! You pronounced Iridium correctly, and then that tripped you up.
Snipperclips. Listen, I'm just trying my best here. All right. I used to be a connoisseur.
So, like, full disclosure, I had a little bit of a struggle with picking what I was going to talk about for this because. On one hand, originally my first issue was I don't really like party games. Are you sure?
I never played.
I remember having the cartridge party games.
Maybe
you know what I completely forgot about though, like 1-2 Switch.
I don't think I played. I don't think I played a whole lot of it.
I have a lot of good memories of it. So I probably would have spoken about it.
I am explicitly talking about the PS2.
But like other guys, I have
all right.
Some may define as a competitive streak, so like it's best that I just don't like sit in those spaces for the wanting to maintain friendships. So, especially again, just kidding. I'm implying that you only have one friend. Oh boy,
believe me,
I've
been there.
Yeah, no, I know. More power to you. So I'm gonna talk
over a decade of it.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm like. Wow, my
God, that is not.
Oh, so you guys have been together as long as Anthony.
That is not the fairy I was referring to.
Each other.
Sorry,
a decade.
I didn't mean to cut in. I thought that you were wrapping.
No, we just passed. We just passed a decade.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Anthony and I are 10.5 years. Danny DeVito as a fairy.
So
it's a decade.
I just wanted to illustrate for myself.
Remember 2012?
Anyway, go on.
It was a hell of a year. Anyway, back to you know what? That would be a really good segue.
And I was like, oh man, I love when games used to be like.
No, it's
2017.
Yeah, they kind of followed.
That would have been so good. All right, so
sure, yeah.
Anyway,
and then I found Roy the
save
save game
because,
fairy.
I don't have a lot of games that I play multi. I also have just an issue with like base multiplayer.
What a wonderful addition to the game.
I tried to play that one Mario game where I'm supposed to be the fucking hat, and I could not deal. I could not cope. Oh my god, I had a meltdown. I was like, I'm not playing this with you. I can't do this. I hate not having
control. No, he's not in the Shrek 2 game.
So anyway,
from a different
flash forward to Snipperclips, where Chris was like, listen, my best friend fucking he's so sad with some chick just fucking I thought we had something special, but he's fucking bolted. So
yes, there.
I have nobody.
Today I found out there
so
is
I have
a PC
nobody
version of Shrek 2
I have nobody to help me play and finish this game. So one weekend, Chris is over my house. One of our siblings sleep over weekends, and he's like, "Do you want to just try it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, fine, whatever." I don't
anyone else before Mech closes? Does anyone else have any comment on Shrek 2?
We stayed up so late, and I was like so into it, and we had such a good time. It's one of my favorite memories now. So I filled the gargantuan size shoes once again of Matt Walsh.
All right, I'm going to now do my top 10 list.
To step in and finish this game with Chris. And we didn't, I don't think we hit every level. We didn't 100%, but we at least got to the end game, which was slightly anticlimactic. It's climactic because all of a sudden it was like just over, and we were like, oh, I guess it's over. But it was still very good. Like, it doesn't really take away from it.
I should have warned you guys. I won't spoil it for people who
no,
but it's
we just kind of all of a sudden arrived at the end. It made me a little emotional.
Just letting you know.
But Snipperclips Cut It Out Together was originally released March 2017.
Alright, here's my top 10 list of Shrek characters to play as in the Shrek 2 video game.
Is between them.
Number 10, Fairy. Their special power is you can lift enemies into the air. In the one level she's playable in, I never used her.
It's by SFB Games, which
was
formerly known as the Super
Number 9, Dragon. Only appears in Donkey's Hero Time in level 2, but the level is fun, and Dragon is a very cool character, so it's above Fairy for that. Number 8, Big Bad Wolf. His special power is he can blow things really hard. And it's good for like some like puzzle things.
And I don't think that there are,
but that's about it.
Like, out of the loop,
Number 7 is Human Shrek and Horse Donkey.
A large
they are one character. Shrek rides around on donkey. He is good because he can charge.
I couldn't speak on that.
But
really
these are two.
Number 6, Sorry Gabe, is Fiona. Fiona would be higher if she was playable in more levels, but she's only playable in the first 3. And then the final boss, she does get bullet time. It's very cool. Number 5, Gingerbread Man.
I believe that.
He can jump high and he has a ranged attack with his candy cane. It's pretty nice. Number 4, Little Red. She has a ranged, as in Little Red Riding Hood. She has a ranged attack where she throws apples and it cheeses like any boss fight that she is in because she can just keep throwing apples and not get damaged.
And the
Number 3, Shrek. He picks things up and puts them down. Number 2, Donkey. My favorite character to do combat with. He's just a lot of fun, and the Burrow Blast is fun. And then, of course, number 1, the greatest Shrek character, Puss in Boots.
I think that you can come up with multiple answers as long as you finish the puzzle. It doesn't really matter how you get there, and so you can kind of create your own style.
Puss in Boots is one of the best characters ever designed, and I'm tired of pretending that he's not.
You do whatever I say in order to get to my logical conclusion, of which Christopher is a very good sport. And there were some moments where it was like, you need to take a lap, meaning me. He was cool. I was not. I have no chill.
And I was like, your controller
you need to take a lap, you need to get a drink of water, you need to stand up for a second. There was yelling. Only on my part. Like,
and before that, I posted an image, and it is.
I was just alright. You just let me know. A couple of times, I grabbed the controller from him. Like, listen, like this is a confessional. This is a confessional, and this is me saying I don't share.
Okay, listen. Your interpretation of what Fiona is looking like, how she looks, is a lot different than my interpretation of how she looks.
No,
she's
not.
Like
but me looking at like
no.
The point being with the developers is
well, that's what causes the sauce to begin with. So we got to stop that.
The Metacritic,
but she's not blushing. That's just her makeup, and she looks disgusted. That is a wrinkled, like ew face, not a like but it's really cute because like what?
Essentially,
who would do that? You absolutely
nut. There are not enough polygons to tell what her expression is.
Right, that's fair, but
it's
not.
Mona Lisa.
But it's not like ooh, he shat himself. Like what?
I feel like we're learning a lot about
Anthony.
Yeah, snip the snipper.
No, just about Anthony.
But you essentially have to.
All right. Well, that's Shrek 2.
Anyway, watch Shrek 2 and then watch Shrek the musical, and then like watch Just Who I'd Be like 3 more times.
And you have to put them into.
All right, that's your homework.
They all have to fit into the receptacles of coordinating colors. If any single one of them does not go into the right,
very much so.
Receptacle, the entire thing starts over. Like it is not like you get some of them and they'll say you need to keep fucking up the green one. No, the minute that anything goes wrong, the entire thing starts from the beginning. So it was a hellish level, but we did it. We got there.
When I was younger, I remember that I tried playing the original
and it was just fucking,
Wario Land
really
games, and
I had
they
a really
were
good
so
time. And
magical and mystical.
It was one of my most
I was too young to really understand
times
what was
in memory.
happening.
that
So
that Chris
in
and I had
enters
something like this
Wario
where we
Land
just
4
like
for the Game
could
Boy
play
Advance.
and we lost
You
hours
could
and
finally
we just had such a
see
good time
what was
and it was a
going
good vibe.
on
So
now that it had
my
like,
point
the
that I
full
keep trying to
color
make
spectrum
is
available
that
to it.
I am extremely
Shots at the
grateful
Game
to the
Boy,
Vian
huh?
brothers
Wow.
who
It
were a
was tough
sibling
back
team
then.
who have a well-off enough bond and friendship
And
that they were able to collaborate
the game
and make
just
something
like
really
grabbed me
beautiful and
immediately
really fun
and
that
just
I got
sucked
to
me
play
right
with my
into it.
brother and have
And
a really
you don't really
wonderful,
realize
wholesome
how
experience.
weird
So I'm really grateful
things
for
are
their relationship
until you
that
look
gave
at
us
them in
this game that I
retrospect
could
sometimes.
further my relationship with my brother.
And I think that fits the bill with Wario Land 4.
I had no idea
so
about
it
the
starts
I always just
off
thought it
with
was just
Wario
Nintendo. Like I think
his
this was a
pink
Nintendo published game,
convertible
I
driving to a
realize it was
pyramid
such
in
a
the
small
jungle
studio.
that was
That's fantastic.
discovered
Yeah,
recently and is set
I
to
had
contain
such a great
lots of
time with it.
treasure.
Yeah, I played it with Walsh,
And he
we
gets
had
in,
a great time.
and he
I
falls into the
always
pyramid,
wanted to return to it, but there's
and there are these
always
4
other
different
games that we ended up
wings
just
of the
playing.
pyramid, and when you go into
And the fact
each
that I was able
wing,
to finally finish
you get
it's
sucked
just
into
like,
a painting.
Wow, this is a great.
And each wing
like,
has its own
what a
theme
great
to it.
indie game of
One of them is kind of like this nature themed,
really
another is
interesting
themed around
concept.
children's
I hope
toys.
that they keep on making.
And then there's like a
more
machinery
games
theme
like this,
and
'cause I
a
think this
horror
is,
theme.
like just delightful puzzle
And
games.
the levels are really creative. Each level is kind of different in its own right, while still staying true to the overall theming
I've always wanted to try the game.
And
I just don't.
There are
have
all these
anyone
different
to
enemies,
really play it with because my
and
sister
they
doesn't
do
really play video games, and I don't
all
really
different
see
kinds
that
of
often.
things to Wario,
Is there
like
no
set him on
online
fire,
play?
No,
or give
this
him
is
a
early Switch where like
incredible
online,
allergic
they just
reaction
were not thinking about
that makes him
online
kind of like turn
multiplayer.
into a
Well,
balloon
so you
and
can
float
play.
around.
You do not have to play
or
multiplayer.
turn him into
you
a
can play
zombie
single
or a
player.
vampire bat or all this
It just
silly
requires
stuff.
you to use both characters.
And
so if you did
Wario
want
never
to
dies. He
experience
just
some parts
rolls
of
with it.
You could still.
My favorite
definitely
part
would
of
wanna
each
play with
level
me.
is that hidden around
Given my
somewhere
See, but like
my
in the
early
platform
that means you're my
is
absolute
a
target
CD.
of who I want to play with.
And the
Okay, so the
CDs
fact that you even
are
framed me as a
incredibly
target
nuts.
as opposed to like a companion, like is exactly
Like,
what I fucking said
have these
earlier. That's exactly why we
gifts
should not play
associated
together
with them
because
that are,
it's
like,
not going to work.
frames.
Oh my
And
god.
Sometimes it's in people
Like
in
I
Wario
cannot
costumes.
express my amount of
Other
like
times it's,
undying
like,
love for
these
you and who
props
you
that
are
had a
and our
weird
friendship,
Photoshop
but like
filter
I
applied
would
to
kill
them.
you.
And
Like
the
not
songs are just
voluntarily.
strange. There's no other
Like,
way
it would
to
not be
describe
good.
it. Some of
Pre-podcast
them
conversation.
are just like
Gabe
2 minutes of
Gabe
ambiance
has, like,
followed by
I feel like
carnival
he
You
music.
have an
has-
energy that you tap into that
others
is
are,
like
overlapping
behind, like
drop
he has like a
sounds,
secret room where he
building
has
to,
like a
like, this
bulletin board and like a
crescendo.
bunch of like
Yes.
red
And
yarn
others are, like,
attached to like
actual
who he's
songs
going to
that I
end up
really
targeting
like
next
to
for
listen
his
to.
game. Whenever game he
like
plays with
I
next to people.
already
When
don't
I was a
like
kid,
Mario Party. And then I was
I
just a
paired
fucking
the
witness
songs and
to
the
Gabe
weird
playing
images
Mario. Like
that
I
they're
wasn't even
associated
involved. I
with.
was a witness
And I created
to Mario
horror
Party
stories
game, and I
in
was
my
like,
head,
never in my
theming
life.
around the
If I
songs
never
and
do
the
anything
images.
firmly
And I
ever in my
still
life,
remember
never
some of
ever, it's
them.
play Mario Party with Gabe.
Gabe's
a
maybe
little
it would
troll.
be better to talk about that in like a music coop or something.
Where's your
Damn,
bridge?
this
Where's your bridge, Gabe?
There's really no
That's why from
explanation for it.
Snipperclips to
It's just
fucking roast Gabe.
straight
We love
to the
Gabe.
song titles.
Boss, remember when you
Let me
were
get them
here?
for you. It's so
and
sleepy.
I used
And
the
it's
warp
somebody
block,
who's
and all 3
snoring,
times I used it, it targeted
and
you.
shit keeps waking them
See,
up.
now that's fun.
Only for
Is,
them
guys,
to go
isn't
back
it fun
I
to
remember
suffer?
that fun.
and like a
You will.
door
That's why I
slams
play
and they
video
wake up. Or a dog
Mario
barks.
Party, Gabe and Mario Party,
and
and
other
other
like fly, just buzzing
Gabe
around
will,
and
like,
making noise.
come to this
There's
NPC,
the
and the
avocado
NPC's
song,
like, do you want to steal
which
one
I
of your
think is
friend's
best left
stars?
unexplained.
And like most people in polite company are like, they pick the
and
CPU
after you get
that
through
you play with,
all of the levels,
because it's like an unspoken
you
agreement.
finally unlock
Gabe not only
the
picks you,
golden
but then he
hat.
uses a warp block
And
when you are one
Actually, sorry,
space
I'm
away
getting a
from
little
the
ahead
star.
of myself. At the end of
It
Gabe
always
is
works.
diabolical.
hats painting levels,
I love how
you
this.
run
I
into
love
a
how this party game
shopkeeper
episode did
selling you
ultimately go
things
back to
like
Mario Party.
Sorry,
bombs
well, that's-
Despite us
disguised
not
as
at
an
all
apple.
having Mario Party on the agenda.
So that's
Or
like-
really
That's the
loud
power of
horn.
the game, unfortunately.
But that's
And
exactly
you
why, like,
fight
I had a hard time
boss.
because the traditional party games
That's
for
kind
me
of
are usually
related
just
to the
sources
levels
of
that you've
contention
been
and
going
chaos
through, like the
and trauma.
mechanical
So
one.
Right,
is this,
yeah.
my
That's just
part,
the
quote,
nature of the beast.
grandfather
right.
Exactly.
So my
clock
quote
that
unquote
has a
party
bird
games
inside of it, like
are
a real
things
bird.
that I just multiplayer So
and you play these weird little mini games.
Move on to
yes.
the game
well,
of
actually,
life.
can I speak on Snipperclips?
No, you're not allowed because you left.
Get these little coins
coins that
100%.
buffs.
I will keep it brief.
To help you with
I had a lot of fun playing this with Chris.
But anyway, once you're done with all of the bosses, you finally unlock the middle of the period. And
I appreciate it.
Once you get to the middle,
you know what? I think I have a code to Snipperclips somewhere. I was just looking at my desk for it.
Right?
I should send it to you to play it with Skylar.
In the background are chests that you unlock from the previous boss battles. If you speedrun them, you can collect all those chests.
For sure.
And
speaking of couch co-op,
you save all of them. But if you take too long,
this is a little bit more competitive, to be fair.
Well, so I was gonna say though, this is like baby competitive. But I can't see like this would not give Gabe the rope that he wants to hang.
It is one of the scariest.
You know what? I have faith in Gabe that he would find the rope.
Cooperate though. I know when to cooperate.
Anyway,
that's funny because I don't know if that's like I don't know if you know when to cooperate.
Golden treasure.
Okay, granted, I'm very
you find that this little black cat.
Okay, so it's like I know when to cooperate, but it doesn't. That doesn't necessarily mean that I choose to cooperate even when I know to. Okay, all right,
but,
fair.
Anyway,
sure. You know what? Fine, whatever. So anyway, the Game of Life 2. Chris was over recently for another one of our sibling sleepover weekends because we're super.
You know what? Maybe that's why
I never
showed up again.
Chris is like, I'm coming over this weekend, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, Anthony. Chris is coming over, and he's like, all right. The Game of Life is it's traditionally the original board game. If anybody's unfamiliar, you essentially play as a little character that then spins a wheel, and depending on the number that you land on, you move a certain amount of spaces, and each of those spaces have some sort of event associated with them, and the goal is that you get to the end of the game and you receive points based off of the amount of money you've earned and the amount of like additional little tokens you've collected that represent like knowledge, wealth, and happiness. And so different events throughout the game, like getting married, or getting a master's degree,
made it baby,
or going into debt in order to buy a house. There are certain things that happen throughout the game that can negatively or positively impact your
That's awful.
Is she still a love interest as a baby? Hanging out. And we had played another
It looks
game
like she wants to kiss. That's weird.
Oh no!
Wow, that's a weird.
That's
one.
not.
No.
Nintendo made it weird.
Cap off the evening because that's a synchro. That was wonderful, and I might talk about that game for my game of the year, but I'm excited.
That's so interesting.
But we were just kind of going through what was available on Switch, and all of a sudden the Game of Life 2 came out.
Apparently, she was a spirit in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
That's available. We can play it on the Switch because he killed her. I specifically remember growing up with Chris. We had a Windows. She became a spirit of the Game of Life CD-ROM game that we used to play, and Chris said to me when we bought the Game of Life 2, he was like, I remember the Game of Life CD-ROM game being really janky, and I was like,
at some point,
I thought it was polished. I don't remember that.
That's my prediction.
I looked it up, and Chris is right. It's super janky. It's like a Hasbro original, rated E. The people look creepy in it. 98. And just as a little nugget of entertainment, I did happen to find a YouTube playthrough of it and the original CD-ROM.
That's interesting to learn that you have
the splash art for the intro.
Also, maybe the problematic nature for being a baby and kissing Wario. Maybe you don't want to bring that up again.
That is some sort of graphics. I don't know why.
There's a lot to dissect.
But
what is
the new game is a little bit more polished. I have to say that in looking at the some of the gameplay for the old one compared to the new one, I feel like the new game playthrough of the game is incredibly short.
Definitely,
it's quick. It's so quick. Each game is so quick, but that almost makes it fun because then you can experience the full scope of what it has to offer. It came out in May of 2021.
It was on the Wii.
It is by Marmalade Game Studios. The platforms that it's available on are the iPhone/iPad, PC, Switch, and PlayStation 4. I've heard that it is super cheap on the iPhone.
I vaguely remember you actually
compared to the $20 or $30 price tag that comes with the Switch game. Which is so the $20 version gets you just the base game. The $30 version comes with what they call a season pass, which is essentially just them quantifying all the DLC that had come out, which gives you additionally themed
associate horror
board games, character
horror
costumes,
stories in your
and
mind
vehicles.
to it. Like I do remember you
So
telling
they
me
have
about that
things
before,
like
and that
one
is
of the
like
little pictures I just dropped down is
really
like there's like a Christmas
really fun,
themed village that you
to
go
add to
through.
this game for
All
me.
of the game
to
boards
associate
themselves,
that
like
now.
the actual path of the game and all the little squares, do not
I
change
want them,
with
I
the
would
different
love,
games that you, with the different board styles that you choose to play.
I would love Nintendo
but
to
like
do more
your
with Wario
careers
than they
that you can
do.
pick from will
I know
vary
WarioWare
with
still,
the theme
like,
of the
they still
game.
come
So
out
like
with
if
those,
you are
but,
a
like,
if
it'd
you're
be fun
playing
to see
the
another, like, platformer,
I think one's called like the Path of Bigfoot or something, and it's like a caveman type prehistoric map, and so everything's dinosaur themed, and you can be like a dino dentist in that one.
Anyone else
where if you are
Wario Land 4,
if you're playing the Christmas map, you're going to be like
Chikora,
Santa's helper.
I feel like Princess Chikora does. So they do things like
girly,
that, and then the little costumes are
speaking
cute.
as a garlic girly,
You
I feel like she would
can
be into
also have a family.
So I feel like she think is really cool that they updated
Oh.
this game in is that when you go to pick a spouse, if you choose to get married, and
Thank
if you go to pick your
thank
player
you. All
choice,
right.
you can choose
The
between
game is
a
incredibly
traditionally
short,
female
and you
gender,
can beat it in
male
just a
gender,
couple
or
hours.
a
Because then he had to
non-binary
go on
character,
the lamp.
which I think is really great. And then you can also choose a spouse of either of those
Because
three representations as
Chikora
well.
went
And then
missing.
in the game, they don't force you to have children. If
Trigger
you
warning,
want to
DV.
expand your family, you can also do so by getting pets instead of babies.
yeah.
So I thought that was nice.
But
and inclusive as
Modern.
well.
But
Very
that's
modern.
good to hear that that's
so
short,
you can
so
be
maybe I can
super
pick it up at some
sapphic with
point.
2 puppies
Oh,
instead
and
of a traditional
It does have a
hetero
speedrunning
marriage
element
and
to it
babies.
as well.
Because in this
Like,
economy,
after you beat each level, it sets off
so,
a frog bomb.
yeah,
Yes.
so
You have
it's
to
just it's
escape
very
the level
cute.
before it
We
all
had a really great
explodes,
time. We
so-
played through like
That's
4
like
or
that
5
aspect,
maps the
too.
first time we
That's
bought
why
it,
I
'cause
loved
like I said, I think
about,
each full game run through is
the
maybe
little bit
10
that I played
minutes.
of Wario Land Shake
Maybe,
It, I had
and
a
that's
lot
playing
of
with
fun,
3
like,
people.
when you'd
And you
reach the end of
luckily
the
don't
level.
have
I'm
to.
guessing
You're
this was
not
an
forced
aspect
to
of
have a
all
fourth
Wario
CPU
Land
with you.
games.
There's also
started
online
Wario
play.
Land 4.
We
Oh,
happened
it
to
did
do
start.
a pass
Okay,
the
because
controller
Wario Land
play
Shake It,
'cause we
where
were
it
all
is
sitting
like
in
you
the
reach
same
the
room,
end,
but
you pick
there's
up the
also
thing, and
online
all of a
play.
sudden, like,
And I
like
don't know
sirens
if it's
go off,
cross-platform.
then something
but
something
I
comes
heard
chasing
that
after
the
you,
mobile
but
version is just
ultimately
as
you
good
just
and
have
cheaper if
to
you want to
rush
try
your
it out.
way to the back
But
to
yeah,
the start
it
of the level. Like,
was
it's
a
a really
good time.
creative concept for a
Decidedly though,
platformer,
like objectively,
that
the
I
Metacritic
wish
on
was
this
implemented
sucks,
in more
especially compared to
places.
Snipperclips. Like it's I think it barely broke 50% the
Anyone
Metacritic.
else have
People
any-
were not thrilled, especially with the
And
price
me.
tag for the Switch. Like
Shout
that's
out.
not. I mean, we
Move
just
on.
were like so into it that we went for it. And
Gabe, you're
Anthony
gonna talk
loved it
about
so
a
much
game
that
that
he
seems
literally
like
that same evening
it
bought
would
it
have
for
been
his own
incredibly
Switch.
my shit
So,
if I played more on my PSP. So
we
what
loved it,
is
but it's our kind of thing.
Archer
It's not
McLean's
super
Mercury?
competitive. It's also not super
Alright,
competitive
so
because I sit
this
on the
game
other
has
side
no
of the room
story.
and kind
It's
of like
purely a puzzle
subtly
game.
bully you into not attacking
Archer
me with
McLean's
things. So
Mercury
like that's
is
how I
a
keep it
physics
not competitive
puzzle
because I'm
game
like,
which
you don't really want to
control a
like
little bead of
get
mercury
more
in
knowledge
several
points though,
stages.
right? 'Cause,
Kelsey,
like, I have-
toxic? No.
not toxic. I don't know if
Space.
toxic's the right word. I think that's a little
It has an
harsh.
agenda.
I think toxic's
Sure,
a little harsh.
I
but-
like the agenda. I like the agenda.
I
has an
just-
agenda.
I just I don't know. I just like if I have the little crown for the knowledge and you start like getting close to that, I'm gonna look a little sad.
Like,
That's
conveyor
what the
belts,
way it is. And you
dye
can
machines
choose,
where you
like
can turn
Gabe, whether or
green
not
to
to
color
acknowledge
mercury
that
to
and whether or not
different-
to break my heart. That's up to
for
you.
it to
So
accommodate to a different
you know,
combination of colors, and you
it's
can
good.
also
It's a good
combine
time.
different colors to make special
Something that I
colors.
will briefly acknowledge
So, like, for
is
say,
that right
let's say,
before the end of the game, the
green and
game
yellow-
is about like splitting paths,
yellow
right?
and blue makes green
And the last
mercury,
choice-
so- and
Second to last
green,
choice
red,
you
and
make
yellow
is whether you
mercury
want to
together
take
make
the
silver mercury.
risky
So, like,
path
you have to
or
think
the
about
safe
what
path.
you can do
And
to
every single time we
combine
come
those
to it,
colors
Kelsey's
correctly to
like,
get to
risk
the
it
goal.
for the biscuit, risk it for the biscuit.
I didn't start that. Chris did, but I
did,
went
I
with
did.
it.
You persisted.
Yeah.
And whenever Kelsey gets to this, without flinching, without a second wasted, she picks the safe path. I'm like, what happened to risk it for the biscuit? And she's just like, I didn't want to do that.
Well, because I usually would have to pay like so the risky path puts you on a track to potentially have to pay a lot of taxes, and when you get the master's degree and you get the high salary, a lot of the time it's like a 200K salary but 150 in taxes.
And you can go a whole game without landing on a single attack space. But if you take the risky path, there's a good chance you'll hit attack space. And I don't really see the benefit beyond that. But if I can get my opponents to pay their taxes, I'm fine.
Sure. First of all,
I'm a Republican.
The Mercury moving around is so satisfying.
In game.
It's like just blob that just kind of slashes around on the stage.
I had a great time with this. Game of Life is definitely my favorite board game.
It seemed like it would have been like a really
play them
great
often, but the Game of Life has always just been like the one that's always a fun return to, especially motion, like how they implemented it in the game, like Kelsey was mentioning earlier, like how everything's very direction. I think we got
a cool concept. I think
well, that was Animal Crossing Monopoly. There was one Life game that I felt like
fun fact
that I've gotten in recent.
There is a regame. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
but was it specifically this, or
as
was
a
it
board,
something different?
As actual like physical board game?
It just went by a different.
Didn't Walsh?
Yes, I was about to get to that.
Okay, yeah.
So I was gonna say, but there was also because I love the Game of Life. A long time ago.
Okay,
is it actually? It's been.
Is it just referred to as Mercury
for a graduation present?
Yes.
Matt worked together with someone
and then seeing like a different
game of life,
how you're maneuvering
featuring
around
all
and
of
having,
our friends,
like the one person I was watching,
different like scenarios and things, a lot of which involved like the drama club that we were in, and it was so well done. I think played it once. After all that work, but
it was such a labor of love. Like it was such a wonderful, beautiful thing.
I was so good. But like it seems like it was a really so the fact that we found a Switch game about
it just does remind me.
All right, cool. I'm down to try it. We really had a great time. I've been telling Kelsey and Anthony like we need to play online at some point soon because it's just a good time to be had.
Not
going to
blow anyone away, but that's just online. You're going to have a good time with this.
Good time.
Yeah.
Well, she's the bestie.
Anyone else have comments on Archer McLean's Mercury?
What did he just smack his balls against the keyboard? Like what was that noise?
No, that was like a click of my
you
mouth.
Get to color
Game of Life is a good time,
and that part is just like rapid fire right now. I just watched somebody paint it yellow and then blue.
I got a game to
like,
talk about.
Man, that is so cool.
What game is it? I'm sorry if I missed this because I was listening.
We got
but my cat was also getting sick. But did you explain
WarioWare.
why
WarioWare
it's associated with that person's name?
One of my favorite
and like why did they just
video
drop
game
it?
Series.
I have no idea.
If you don't know what WarioWare
is,
yeah,
all right. So I just wanted to like make sure that I didn't miss something because I'm wondering who this person is.
It's essentially a game that has
he's a British
micro
game programmer.
You play level by level, and each level has a series of micro games that you have to play. And if you beat a certain amount,
I don't know why the decision.
And then you can go back and replay it for like higher scores and stuff like that. Micro games are essentially like 5 second
Arthur McLean's Mercury,
5 seconds or 5 maybe a little bit short, but like it's super quick like scenarios where the game prompts you to do something and you have to just do that thing in that quick amount of time.
No, that's fine.
And then if you
good
do
enough
it,
for me.
succeed,
just want to make sure that I didn't miss something.
Yeah,
I've been playing this game since WarioWare Touched, which was the DS game.
Cool game.
But
like
my favorite version of WarioWare
it's definitely a weird game.
WarioWare Smooth Moves.
What is going on
Nintendo
with
Wii?
But like,
I
don't know.
This came out in January of 2007.
Outside of the ones I've already played, definitely the one game,
and it is.
I would.
It is one of my favorite Wii games in general because I think it does such a good job of implementing the Wii remote in very interesting ways. The WarioWare series as a whole has done like a very good job of like implementing the hardware in unique ways. Like with the DS version, it was very much all about like the different ways that you'd move the stylus across the screen. The game before that, which
it has been 2 years since we started Team Chaos Productions, and we would not be where we are today without the help of Anchor. You've heard us talk about it all the time, but let me remind you, this completely free platform gives creators the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast from your computer or phone. Once done, Anchor will distribute your podcast to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more, so you don't have to. You can also make some money on the episodes with no minimum listenership. It's everything you've ever wanted a podcasting platform. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Happy podcasting.
The
Football is back, and so are the virtual ball boys.
Each week, two dudes who have zero experience playing the sport give their analysis of what is happening in the NFL, from weekly recaps to predictions for the weeks to come.
But for Season 3, we're going bigger than ever before.
We'll also have episodes dedicated to the Virtual Ball Boys Football League, our tabletop roleplay game where teams filled with classic animation and video game characters clash on the gridiron. You can find us on Anchor or wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you tune in.
Good night and good ball.
That show up throughout the game in this world of Diamond City.
Now, going into a mid-segment,
and
of course, Welsh is not here.
The Form Baton gameplay is phenomenal because it kind of instructs you to hold the Wii remote in a certain way and move it in a specific way as well. And how they instruct you is probably some of my favorite things in video games because they... you start out in a scenario and you start right before you jump into all the levels. All of a sudden the game freezes. It fades to white.
Walsh in
and
person as a friend,
all of a sudden the
feet
soothing
on that man are just
music.
It's incredible.
Therapeutic music starts playing in the
wow.
background.
So
and this guy that's talking in this ASMR
filling gargantuan shoes. Really the largest I've ever seen. And I know what he'll say. He'll be like, what they say about big shoes. And yes, his feet are fucking massive. But anyway, the mid-segment
is
going to be
people really fascinated.
I know, that's okay. Well, now, so it's at Walsh Animation. And if you slide into his DMs, he'll do pretty much anything for a gig. So
also send him an abortion donation.
Abortion donation first. Feet pics later.
Don't send him the donation. Send him the screenshot for your donation.
That's true.
But then
turn the form
he'll match
and wrap your
his OnlyFans contributions to whatever your abortion donation was.
From liver to livery man. And then
listen, nobody
my
listens to us.
My personal favorite, I think, is the Wii.
We have no audience, so this is completely fine.
See yourself serving a group of socialites. Such grace.
Anyway, I'm not going to give you the name of where I pulled this information from. It's so good so that nobody cheats. Not that I don't trust everybody here, but I don't trust everybody here. So,
but this game,
you're going to get the credit for where I pulled this information after. But we are playing.
Weirdness in a way that
I'm going to show you a series of picks, and you have to pick which one's what. No, I'm just kidding.
The way that this becomes a party game.
So we're going to do.
Walsh.
We're going to do a mid-seg that is weird video game trivia.
There's like a few
so
ways
this
that
is
you could do
possibly not well-known information.
There's like some mini games that are completely separate from all the micro game nonsense that WarioWare
gaming knowledge super freak.
There's
so
also
very well may be the case that
some modes that incorporate it into.
But I'm essentially going to give you a question. There's no
a game called Survival.
We're all on the same
as
team
angels
here,
flying above the
where
clouds,
you all get to work together
each
to
player
try and
takes
see
turns
what this information is.
One micro
no
game.
Googling. We're going to do the trust
and if they win, they survive. But if they lose, they fall.
It is
and after
7
every player has
questions,
played once, the difficulty and speed increase. So it's kind of like it is a battle royale, and it makes me wish. That Nintendo did a WarioWare 99, because that would be amazing.
I will tell you when you'll know when I'm done answering the question. Please wait until the full question is asked.
And then there's also like Lifeline, where if you get enough
following World War II
doing a bunch of micro
2004,
games, and then based
South
on the amount
Korea
of points,
banned
the more
Japanese
you
cultural
have,
imports.
And
however, South Korean gamers still got to enjoy Nintendo games under a rebranded
in front of a pit of crocodiles, and
under
basically
what
at the end of
name
the game,
was
every
the NES published
takes
in
turns
South
trying
Korea?
to cut everyone's rope until one person's remaining standing, and
IQ.
I forget if it really worked well.
Was it
I forget even if I played it 2-player at all, but
was it Famicom?
It probably does not work well.
No, Famicom was what it was in Japan.
I
know that
have the most rope.
I'm pretty sure that Samson was the one who
I could see the strategy
made it.
You have all these players,
but I don't remember the name of the console.
So I will tell you that it is not Samsung.
Like there's a lot of,
but it is a well-known.
Like there's a few other different like
brand manufacturer, but not who I would have ever thought did
special
gaming consoles or anything other than what I know them for.
Like I said, it's just
and what probably
one of the better
most people know them
interpretations
for.
of WarioWare. I'll let you guys. If anyone wants to talk about it, I'll let you guys go first. I have 2 more things I want to talk about, but those are like back burner stuff.
Was it
Mitsubishi?
It wasn't Mitsubishi.
What do you guys think of WarioWare?
I will let everybody give a guess, and then for the sake of time, I'm just gonna call it, and then I'll tell you guys the answer.
Could you?
It's been.
I would be curious about. Would a hint give it away? Like a hint.
It depends on what the hint
it's
is.
Always been that
I mean, I can
tell us what industry that they are in usually.
But
yes, cars.
Just how high the quality was.
So Matt was on the right track. Okay.
Because I also love.
I'm sorry. What did Matt say? I missed it.
Mitsubishi.
It is not Mitsubishi.
Okay, because I knew they also did technology stuff.
And this is, I think, is Mitsubishi not Japan?
WarioWare in general.
They are Japan.
So this is South Korea, and Japan cultural imports were banned during the time, which is why they had to come up with their own.
So that rules out Toyota.
I got it around launch.
Japan as
I did
well.
It's also Japan. I don't know any Korean car brands.
Yeah, I had to think about that.
But yeah, it's always been that elusive game for me. Like,
I'm fine with forfeiting because I can't think of the name of the console.
I play WarioWare Smooth Moves.
Yeah,
I find that to be ass backwards.
Even if we got the brand name right.
Yeah, it happens. Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, whatever you guys want to do. There's 7 of them, so you have other options. You'll have other guesses for other things.
Right behind, I would say, like.
All right.
Yeah, so Galaxy 2.
So
and then maybe, like,
the answer is the Hyundai Comboy. COMBOY.
These are the games that I would want to play on the Wii.
Yes. And there was some information about.
I mean, Galaxy 2 I didn't play for years later. But
I don't. Anyway, I'm going to tell you guys who... I got all this information from one article, so I'll give the article name at the end so that the person is credited with the information.
To me, the peak.
Question 2. Many of the Koopalings in Super Mario games are named after famous musicians, which is something I did not know, by the way.
Well, like,
what creature in Super Mario World is named Reznor after Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails?
Level where they are delivering, they are having a girl shows up and says, "I want to go to Tomorrow Hill."
It is named in the article as a fire-breathing Triceratops, but I'm assuming that it's probably the same thing, and we're just describing it differently than they did.
But I didn't ask anyone to listen to it. But
very nice.
You should.
Good job.
Very good.
The song is so delightful.
Yeah,
it's
it's collaborative. Nobody gets individual points, but yes, by the end of this,
each other. Kelsey's just like, let's work together.
I am. This is collaborative. I said that in the beginning because I'm not Walsh. My feet are smaller than his, and this is not. This is not.
Make you competitive. Kelsey said it here.
Right, exactly.
It also has like some of the most fun micro games I think in the game as a whole.
He knows. So this is Walsh is like my second younger brother, and he knows that I will come for him with any opportunity I have, and he does the same thing to me. So it's fine. We have this relationship.
Every micro game is
Interestingly,
based
the
off
other
of famous Nintendo
names that were mentioned for famous musicians are Ludwig, Iggy, and Lemmy as different names of Koopalings, which
Super
I
Mario
was,
Bros,
again,
Wind
unaware
Waker,
of. Also,
Super
Trent
Mario
Reznor did the
Sunshine,
soundtrack
Wild
for
World,
Quake.
and then they have like more avant-garde ones like Clue Land.
Yes, of course.
One Hit Wonder.
The game that came out the year that Iggy Azalea was
born.
probably
all these weird
Anyway,
micro games mixed in with
what was the
more
first
famous
video game
Nintendo
played in space in 1993?
That end up showing up during these micro games. It's delightful. I love it. And
it's a good guess. It's wrong, but it's a good guess.
Really love games.
And that's also what I was gonna say. The one thing I know about like First in Space is that I know that Silly Putty was in space, but that's not a video game.
That isn't. But Gabe just said Tetris. That is the right answer.
That makes sense.
The Game Boy version of Tetris.
We will be moving on to our
Very good.
next. But before we do,
give me
let me tell you about our
one quick second.
It has been 2 years since we started Team Chaos Productions, and we would not be where we are today without the help of Anchor. You've heard us talk about it all the time, but let me remind you, this completely free platform gives creators the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast from your computer or phone.
Can I say this before Gabe
Once done, Anchor will distribute your podcast to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more, so you don't have to. You can also make some money on the episode
bananas and Mother 3?
It's everything you'd ever want on a podcasting platform. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Game Boy title? So
football is back, and so are the Virtual Ball Boys.
Each week, 2 dudes who have zero experience playing the sport give their analysis of what is happening in the NFL, from weekly recaps to predictions for the weeks to come.
But for Season 3, we're going bigger than ever before.
We'll also have episodes dedicated to the Virtual Ball Boys Football League, our tabletop roleplay game where teams filled with classic animation and video game characters clash on the gridiron. You can find us on Anchor or wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you tune in.
Good night and good ball.
And we are back.
So you let me know.
All right.
I'll take the hint.
We shall.
The hint is that the game is a part of a massive, really well-known franchise, but it is one of the first actual games.
So happy anniversary, everybody!
Nintendo property?
Yay! Give me a quick second to Google this because I
forgot our
don't know.
anniversary, Chris.
I know, I did. I'm sorry, I forgot a gift too.
You do this every year.
Every year.
Divorce. I'm gonna say no, and it is also not a Nintendo exclusive.
I was gonna pay homage and do Yahoo questions.
I mean, I go to GTA, but GTA didn't start on the Game Boy.
I've picked something else, but
I do not know if this started on the Game Boy.
Because if I actually did the Yahoo questions, it would be way too long. Almost every gaming Yahoo
Plus,
question
I don't think they would censor
relatively entertaining has an anonymous person on it, and they go on huge long rants that I assume by now are just copy and paste things, but they're like hydrogen peroxide, H2O2 kills nanoworms inside.
That is a really fucking good guess, though. Holy shit!
That they took the real vaccine. The real vaccine will cause spiritual and psychic damage.
I can give you another hint if you should do it.
Another one like where is it? First vaccine shuts off your immune system. Second vaccine gives you diseases.
Okay.
Third vaccine
I want to make sure I don't give you too much of a hint. This particular franchise has over a dozen game titles in it as of today. This particular game is one of the first 3 or 4 that came out.
A whole thing
for the series.
Honestly, just
it is absolutely a Final Fantasy. Would you like to know which one?
Druid Black Magic Curse. QR code
okay.
Lion Curse.
Wait.
It was Final Fantasy Legend 2.
Just scrolling through it. Don't go into the UFO.
Yeah, would not have gotten
I've never heard of that before.
Never do good.
And they, because of the censorship, they had to change the opium to bananas.
Dinosaurs
Makes
live
sense.
under our
It's quite funny.
They will get out through sinkholes and lakes. To kill them,
question
go
number
for
5.
Nerves.
Is this
the birds,
which
but
star
kill the
video
dinosaurs.
game character
Is
shares its name
end
with
of
the
the era
gene
Yahoo
and
Answers,
protein that
and so all the
separates your
spam
right brain
bots
from
showed
the
up and
left?
took it over at the end?
It's like a year ago.
It's either Pikachu or Sonic.
Questions where it's the same
Sorry.
Both had brain or both had like body parts.
Instead,
which star video game character shares its name with the gene and protein that separates your right brain from the left?
If anybody's played Wii Party, there are quite a few different modes, and we're going to take the buddy quiz.
I mean, the part of the brain is called the corpus callosum, but I don't know what the protein in the gene is. Because I want to say, Pikachu because of like the electric impulses from it.
2-year anniversary. I want to nominate Chris to be the buddy.
I was also going to nominate.
Anybody
Chris.
else want to say anything?
Cool, I'm into it. Sure.
All right. So that means that our contestants here, Anthony, Matt,
so it's either Pikachu or Sonic.
You will have a job. I'm going to give questions, and each question will be worth a certain amount of points. So please keep track of your points.
Yes, it is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay.
Which Matt did say. So Sonic the Hedgehog,
to pick.
and it's that the
Maybe if you want to
researcher
throw
who
it in
named
our
the
chat
gene
with a
did so
little
by taking
spoiler around
inspiration
it,
from the
then you can do
Sonic
that, but
comic
I'm
book
going
that
to
his
give
6-year-old daughter
1
was
to
reading at the
4
time,
answers, and I will number
and the
them.
gene itself
You're
has
going
a
to pick your
spiky
number,
appearance.
and you're trying to pick
That's
what
it.
Chris is going to pick.
So it's named, and so the gene is
then Chris
categorized
will
with
pick
the
his
initials SHH,
And
which
then it will be
stands for
revealed
Sonic the
what you
Hedgehog.
picked, and if you
And so,
guessed
but
correctly what
this
Chris guessed,
factoid was
then you will get
started with
points.
the sentence "Sonic is inside of us all,"
Everybody ready?
and I thought
Yeah,
that was that just really stood out to me as being like, yes, this is for the
Not
Weird
at
Coop.
all.
All right, you got 2 more, guys.
Yep.
2 more.
Chris.
All right.
Yes.
2 video
Which
games
vehicle-
that launched
Actually,
in the
first the
UK
buddy
in the
answers
early
this.
2000s both featured
Which vehicle
scratch and
would be the
sniff
most
discs,
fun to drive?
where players could smell
1,
something related to the
hovercraft,
games upon
or
scratching.
2, bulldozer.
Hold on. When scratching
Now,
one
I'm
disc,
also saying
players
this too,
could
I have
smell the
picked-
pitch, quote
All
unquote,
of these are from
while the
game.
other disc delivered
I've gone
authentic
through
pit
the
stop
catacombs
smell, quote unquote.
Found
What were the
questions from
2
the
video
game.
games?
What game is this again?
First one sounded like
this is
FIFA.
from Wii Party, and it's
Yeah,
the
that's
buddy
correct.
quiz.
It was FIFA
And
2001.
so it's what are the 2
Hence,
choices?
because pitch is what they call
The 2 choices
the
were
field. Thank you, Ted
hovercraft
Lasso.
or bulldozer. Which one do you think Chris will pick?
Pit stop.
Is that Crazy Taxi?
No.
We can actually tell.
Could be some
Yeah.
sort of
Put-
racing game.
Chris, don't look.
Anthony, any
And maybe put
idea?
spaces around
Gran
when you,
Turismo,
whatever you
maybe?
write. I don't know.
Yes.
Hey.
It was
Ah.
Gran
Hey.
Turismo 2. So these both
Chris,
came out with a scratch
what
and
is
sniff
your
disc.
answer?
Perfect.
Wow.
This is actually more
okay. Last question, guys.
Because I think I like the
one
idea
of the
both,
longest works of literature in the English language is a video game fan fiction. That's fucking exactly my thinking. That is exactly why 120 chapters. I was like, which beloved gaming franchise is a fan fiction written about?
Kelsey the receiver of some points.
Super Smash Brothers.
Yes, it is Smash Brothers. Good job, folks. So you guys knew, like, of these obscure, like, crazy, weird facts. You guys knew quite a bit of them.
Yeah.
Where the fuck is my question?
That was a lot of fun.
And so thank you to Andrew Reiner of Game Informer. He wrote this article in July of 2017, and it is titled 25 Fun Facts About Video Games You Likely Didn't Know. That is by Andrew Reiner. So thank you, Andrew, for this mid-seg.
I think a bakery.
Yeah,
I think a bakery because like Burger Joint. I'm not super into burgers.
And as we flip the tiles over, Matt, Gabe, and Kelsey,
that was really
each
good.
received
What
the only one I think I vaguely knew was the last one. I couldn't remember if it was Sonic or Smash Bros.
For the next two questions,
two other little fun fact things that came up that I just didn't include because it was getting like I didn't want to take too long. Was that Master Chief is a radio DJ? He was named after Steve Downs, who's a radio DJ dating back to the late 1970s, which I thought was very funny, but didn't know.
Superpower is the
and
best.
then one more that was specifically for Anthony.
Invisibility.
Also, in Halo 4, apparently there's a cameo by Conan O'Brien and Andy Richter, where if you stand near particular people on the space shuttle, you can hear them having a conversation together. They voice two of the random people on the space shuttle.
Okay,
that's funny.
Which superpower is the best?
Conan ended up being I would go with teleportation.
Right. Okay, Anthony, ready?
Yeah.
The satisfying ding that rings out when a Fat Man nuke is launched in Fallout 3 is actually the lunch bell from the Bethesda Softworks cafeteria.
Yes. Well, I also just like the idea of like.
Yeah, I read that when I thought of you, but I was like, I don't think I did this one, so I tried to include it. It also says the Batman itself is modeled after an actual nuke launcher called the M388 Davy Crockett Tactical Nuclear Recoilless Rifle, which was developed in the 1950s.
That is
Which
so
direction
aggressively American.
is the best?
It is, but I thought it was funny that the ding for the nuke was a lunch bell in their cafeteria. I thought that was very funny.
Really fun.
That's very
3
silly.
And that is your mid segment. I hope I did Bigfoot proud.
You think you go east? I think whenever we find him, I know that people have been left forever. Whenever we find him,
I heard he was last spotted on an island somewhere, so I think that
in the woods in Vancouver,
in a Skechers having an altercation with a store employee.
Right.
That was really fun. I really enjoyed that.
You know what?
Thank you. Please be sure to tell Matt that it was the best mid-seg ever.
Down.
He's not allowed to do that. Oh my god! No! That is literally the first thing that I chose, and then I went back and I thought you were going to do He knows that I have endless love for him.
No. I did not think that deeply about it.
I literally was like, he likes laying down.
I thought he'd pick Wes so that he could see Gabe and Matt and Walt.
Oh, that's a very wholesome answer. No, see, I was thinking selfishly because I want to lay in bed.
You don't want to see us?
Everything was lost, and no one remembers what happened back then. Yes.
Oh.
We then see a lonely block with a top hat.
And as we turn over the score sheets,
he is called
nobody got it right.
Mayor. He sits on a rock.
Sorry, guys. Stupid.
Only to discover an even tinier rock in the distance. The screen displays the word "Discovery" with two poop emojis on either side.
What's the best time of day?
Oh my god.
When the mayor picks up this tiny rock, it grows limbs and waves at the mayor. The words "My first friend," once again flanked by poop emojis, appears on the screen.
This is a toughie.
By the way, the rock's name is Linda.
Midnight.
This is
right. And as we turn over, it's like everyone got it right. 30 points.
I don't know if I like. I think it's only just because I feel like for some reason I've become very productive at midnight here. I played this game back in January. My hours are completely
because that's your normal, like that's your 11 a.m. Like that's why.
Yeah, I'm into it. I knew that it was by the Katamari
And
guy.
for our final question,
wait, how many points was that? 20 or 30?
I'm into trying this, and so I played it in January, experienced it. I walked away from it being like, all right, that was a video game. And I loved it in its very unique way.
Starry Night.
A few months later,
a full moon.
The good people over at People Make Games, which is a YouTube channel that kind of goes deep into the video game industry and kind of talking about the developer experiences.
I have a correct answer, and it is not here.
Spotlights the very difficult.
Can I submit a formally correct answer for bonus points?
Shitty bosses. There was one particular video that I found.
That doesn't seem fair.
But please give me in the description below.
The bonus points will be worth nothing. But please give me one of these four.
And it is.
I will.
They went into a deep dive of a few indie studios
instead
that
of
had
spoilers. So I was going to just completely be there, and then somebody was going to give a support ticket. That was
biggest
make
spotlights
no
that they put.
Hello, I am the Discord moderator. What seems to be the problem?
A woman named Robin Hunicke, I want to say his name. It's Hunicke. I want to say it's Hunicke or something along those lines.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So
yes,
she is actually. I'm just gonna say the first game on her Wikipedia that she's that is listed that is her notable work is My Sims.
He picked up.
I just want to start there.
No.
Oh my god.
She has worked also on Boom Blocks and Journey and a few others. She started the studio up. With someone else, I don't know what the guy's name is.
I'm sorry, I'm
relevant to the story.
I do love. It's between 1 and 2. I feel like
emotionally
1 is pretty because I do like the like a downward
good
river type thing flowing. And it's kind of
that report.
They say
the rocks and
that shit's pretty cool.
That report
but start
a
very clear night
where you see all the stars in the sky. Is like that's fucking awesome. That was probably the plan either way. The report had nothing to do with that. They just
how many points?
A scapegoat for it. But anyways, so supposedly what Tom went through
Anthony and
hell with its development.
I win.
To the point where Takahashi
bonus points for actually Christopher. What's the actual most beautiful sky to look at?
To the point
my favorite is
that they ended up, or I think
like clouds that
ended up building a physical barricade between their sides of the
clouds. Hence why fucking cloud.
What is my spoiler say?
And so she ended up withdrawing active development from the game. So I'm hoping that
is the actual right answer.
Her hands were not as much on this game as it was Takahashi. Takahashi seems like I mean I love Katamari. I love my experience with that game. He seems like a good dude, so I'm hoping that it seemed like he had good reason to separate himself.
That's the true win.
Yeah,
I do think Kelsey
it's wild. It's a wild story. I definitely want to share it with you guys too. I think that whole
she got everyone right, didn't she?
No, I got one wrong.
Yeah, there was one that everybody got wrong.
Video really fascinating. It talks about
I got 100 points.
It talks about the people who made Gone Home and
you did it.
Florence. That's it.
Did anyone else?
All those being Annapurna published games, by the way, and so Annapurna also got some flack for that.
Yeah.
Anyways, besides the point, let's talk about the video game.
How can you guys not know what direction?
I mean, listen, you all elected me. You kind of knew the advantage that at least one individual was going to happen.
I'm sure.
Basically,
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
You get an idea with certain context.
And that's going to be the case. Like Gabe or I chosen, the other one will have the advantage.
Right. It was a rough go of it, I think, regardless.
But I thought it was great. I thought I had a good time. I didn't have a problem. I didn't break a sweat.
I think my favorite is which direction, west, up, or down.
But then everything was lost.
Christopher, I swear to God, that's how close I am to you that I knew my first inclination was to say down because he wants to lay down. And then I was like, no, that's dumb. I'm not actually going to use that. I'm going to do something at least a little bit more elevated. And then that's what you fucking said.
Dialogue.
I literally, you don't
verbatim.
Look too deep.
I know. And GoCups even told me, he's like, don't think too hard.
By the way, Tom is a mashup of the Tamil word
well, that's that. Thank you so much.
Word
Walsh. That was great.
Both of which
but how about you tell us more about Wii Party
later?
Yeah, so that was an example of the buddy quiz, which is one of the
all these characters are different things. Like
that are available
you have you are introduced as the blocky mayor. You get introduced to the little rock, and then you realize the big rock that you were sitting on in the beginning of the game. That also has a face that is sentient. And then you pluck flowers out of the ground. There's one image that I shared with you guys on the document that is
larger kind of Mario Party games. You have Board Game Island.
the little rock Linda actually wearing a flower that was popped off of the flower's head.
You're rolling a die and you're moving, and everybody does a mini game.
There's just
and then depending on how you do in the mini game,
things that are happening during this whole sequence.
It doesn't give you coins, but
all
it'll
the
give you
voice acting
is
all
that'll
children,
be better or worse depending on your placement.
It sounds
in the
like kids playing
you then have
and
Globetrot,
and
where you have to go
all
around
these
the world
little,
and collect souvenirs.
Little playful sounds,
Swap
like
meet,
it's
where
very
it's
like
kind of just like you have to get the right knee and the right shirt.
That's kind of I don't know. I hope the children got compensated for it because they're very heavily
spin-off where you're trying to spin a huge wheel and just get as much money as possible, and you go between mini games.
I want to touch upon that.
They have bingo.
That is, it basically plays a lot throughout the game. But
so between
for the
those,
most part,
there are of course
the
some
two singers of the
song.
song. All they're singing is laws in place of the lyrics that they ended up putting into the game later that ends up being playing out during like the credit sequence.
They're just not as like
that song.
Engaging.
I
unironically feels a lot more like
love.
Random luck.
It is the most generic.
Really being you spin a big wheel,
like if
or Globetrot.
Well, I'm including the lyrics in it.
Pick a card.
It is the most like generic story of a journey. Like you don't even know what journey they're going on. You don't really have any idea what they're doing. They're just describing like being separated and then coming back together. And it's a sweet song, and I kind of like it, but it's not like it's not anything to blow anyone's socks off either. But it's a very consistent thing, and I'm just curious what you guys thought of the song when you heard it.
Really fun, especially if you get into a groove of playing with it with some friends.
It was definitely interesting.
And then Bingo's there. I think they just needed a fifth one.
It's called then you have the theme. If I remember, I think
which of course
you said it earlier. It's called 6 Years,
which I don't.
Yeah, a long time :
but
6 years.
They can be a lot of fun. You have friend connection,
and so then
which I was going to do, but I couldn't find a full.
There's
list
also
of the questions and answers,
basically as you're going through the game, you are taking control of each of these characters. You don't just play as the mayor. You can take control of the rocks, you can take control of the flowers, and then you get introduced to more and more different.
And then you have
interesting characters,
which is kind of like a memory game.
Yeah, and each character has their own interesting ability.
Except you're
like the mayor has a magic bomb under his hat,
and then I think
everyone loves it.
Of Wii
Party, as a mayor does.
Yeah, and so everyone gets together. It's really funny because you end up
and you
like
play a mini game.
You notice the bomb and like all the characters get so excited, and it sounds like they all sound like children, like heavy breathing and excitement.
If you do poorly in the mini game, you're given two minis.
It's so
one
strange.
Who is gigantic and one who is very small. And then each of you have access
there's
to
like a nose shows up at one point and comes flying
and you put them
in,
somewhere
and
on the
ability
mast
that
of the
nose
boat,
has is to sniff
and
things
like
out of the ground.
Seesaw, you have to try to keep it from turning over
the
to
ground
one side.
Sometimes.
And
anything can pop out
in
one
want to
particular
complete
scenario, like an acorn pops out, and that acorn can then
I think it's actually
grow into a tree after everyone forms a circle around it, which ends up being a very core aspect of this game, where you are dancing around, where you could get everyone to dance around in a circle by holding hands with each other and spinning around.
And maybe we move on from the party game.
Then this tree can grow up, and it can
tend to move a lot more towards
the characters
house party games,
and turn them into
really,
fruit,
really fun.
Which is very traumatic in many ways, but that's just
buddy quiz that we did. But there are other ones like
and
that
then
actually get
a
really
walking, talking mouth shows up and can eat
and the Wii remotes can do.
Then
whether that be
turn them into poop,
where
and then the poop hangs out for a while.
I've actually played, and it gets
then
really
a toilet, a walking, talking toilet shows up.
Oh no, sorry,
and it will also consume the poop. And then it also has a buddy that is a pipe, and the pipe will the toilet eats the poop, and then the poop comes out of the pipe as golden poop.
Stays where the game is, and all the other people leave the room.
That's a lot. You said poop a lot.
It's a lot of poop going on. This game is very poop oriented.
And the Wii remotes make sounds.
I already brought up the holding hands and forming circles to trigger specific sequences.
And it's up to everybody to find the Wii remote.
There's also the other core aspect is that you
have other ones like
there will be a lot of moments in the game where you'll be asked to stack the characters, so you have to like take control of each individual character and like have them like climb on top of each other and try to stack up as high as possible.
just the sound the Wii remotes can make,
everything in this game is
do,
sentient. That includes the platform that you're standing on.
And then there's
at
mini
times
game
throughout
modes.
the game,
of course, you have free play or
come in like a bowling alley or a giant toilet or a
specific mini
picnic
games,
table.
But one that is always really fun is Spot the Sneak.
Just constantly are being introduced and being brought into the world.
And you're trying to find out who that is
there a plot to this game? Yes, there is. And let me tell you, it gets serious.
To me, it is just a much better
there is
Mario
literally
Party,
a sequence where you
which
go
is crazy because Mario Party
there's
is
multiple times in the game where you go into like
so
a dark
big
cave
and
like a dark
so
cavern,
influential, and so many people
and
already
you
love
discover
Mario
something,
Party.
another
But it feels like it's Mario Party, but plus
a piece of the story that you're
a
trying
lot
to kind
more.
of like.
While instead of having
piece
different
together.
boards for different maps, you have one board, but you
it
have
gets like really
a
sad.
plethora
Like
of other
one quote
games
from one
as well.
character
And
is,
while
"Can
not
we
all
learn
of them
to
are
cherish what we love
complete
before it
successes,
is
or not
lost?"
all of them
And then literally
capture
5
the
seconds
same
later,
way.
you
You
leave
get
the
a bunch
cave,
of
and in
gems,
big bold
like
letters,
Buddy Quiz,
like
or
you will
Spot the
see the
Sneak.
words
That could
"Welcome
be
back,
really
chair"
fun,
as a
and then you
giant
can end
flying
up
chair comes
continuously
into
going
his
back to.
frame.
And then on
the
top of that, you
game.
just get to be your Mii, which
It
I
is a
think
game of
is-
contrast, as you
It
can see.
really just took kind of the best
And then I
aspect
think
of the Wii
my favorite
and really
thing
let you
is
explore it and have fun with
without
it.
spoiling it, because boy
I-
howdy.
I'm
I don't know.
in love with Wii Party.
I don't know if I would
it
encourage you
is-
to buy the game at this point
I think
because I don't
it's
know
right
where that
behind
money's going
Smooth
because the
Moves in
studio
terms
is
of,
gone.
I
I'm
think,
guessing
my
it goes to
favorite party game
Annapurna.
on the Wii.
I don't know.
It just
It's
and
I don't want to
I'm
spoil
completely
it,
with
but there
you,
is an
Josh, where I'm
end
like,
sequence that
I
happens in this
would
game
rather
where you
play
will
this
have
than
a
Mario Party.
dialogue.
Like I'm
and
the person who just
one
does not like
option
Mario Party.
is just the
Would-
words
prefers not
"It's
to
okay."
play, prefers to play a lot of
The
other party
other
games.
3 options
I don't like
are
Mario Party
paragraphs
fundamentally,
long that they
whereas
cover up the
with
entire
Wii Party,
fucking
there's
screen.
just something about
and you
it that
actually have to
feels
just sit and take
like
the time to
I
read
could
each
always
one
be at a board game
to
island and
see,
have a good
and
time
it's
with it,
just-
and even if I
this
lost, I
game
would
is so
understand how
much
that kind
and
of got
yet
to that
nothing
point.
at all at the same time, and I'm kind of in love
the
with
Spot
it.
the Sneak is so brilliant. Like
It
it's
is
just
the
so such a.
strangest experience
I think the only thing
I've
is
ever
there is
had in a
times
game,
where
and
you play like a few
cannot
Spot the
believe
Sneaks back to back,
it
and they
like
keep
took
on
me
bringing
so
up like the
long
same
to kind of
mini
realize
games,
like maybe this
and
should
that
be
was
the
a
big game
little
I
bit
talk
annoying.
about.
But outside
Even
of that,
the
like, that Spot the
achievements,
Sneak
guys,
is so good in terms
like
of
they just go on
a
about
very creative
explaining
way
things
to kind
way
of have
too
like
much.
this deception.
Like if I go to the Steam
aspect built
achievements,
into
there's
Wii Party.
there's a achievement that's called
and like
Snow,
you said, the
Snow,
house
Snow.
games of hiding
And the
Wii
descriptions of
remotes.
the
Like,
achievement is
there's
congratulations,
so many memories that you can
refrigerator
create from
brought
this.
back snow, and
I
the
feel like
poops
the
and ice cream
balance
cone
boat,
brought
for some reason,
refrigerator home.
I know
this
we
trophy
played it
is filled with
like maybe
gratitude and
once or
commemorates
twice,
all
but
their
it was definitely
efforts.
one of those that we did not play a ton. I think for the reason that you said, because it was
there's
just
also,
like it's a lot. It's a commitment to be good consistently with that.
I'm trying to, there's one more that I thought was really silly. I'm trying to see if I can find it again.
I wish
there's also
that the Wii Party franchise.
I think it's congratulations. This is a trophy commemorating the recovery of phone's trade.
I wish they had done
the receiver from
like
the sun.
1-2
Now
switch
phone
was
can make
Wii Party or
international
something
calls
like
to
that.
their
I don't
heart's
know.
content.
Like, I don't even know.
Like this is the
how
game.
we continue
This
it
is
at
the
this point,
fucking
'cause
video game.
Obviously,
It
the Wii
is
is no more.
absolutely
but just also
incredible.
Like, there's just so many gameplay elements of the Wii that I feel like could have been brought forward
and also
into
say
future iterations, but just
maybe for like $5.
It hasn't gotten to that
which
point,
it frequently is.
I will cherish every memory that I've had with it.
I've talked a lot.
It's the one
there's a
reason
lot
that I still have
I
my
wish
Wii
I
set
could
up.
have spoken it more clear
for games like that,
about. But what do you guys think?
An amazing time.
I've seen of what Tom.
There's a common denominator, right? It's the guy who also did Katamari.
Yes, yeah.
So what a brilliant, precious mind that we must protect and make sure nothing happens. Because if that person can crank out,
well, I mean, maybe they don't do the hiding
like this, and with all the weird, delicious goodness
actually,
that comes, even the song that you had to listen to is like it gives me big Katamari vibes. Even when you said there are la la la's in the place of like here, that is an overlap. So I am grateful for the
they do vibrate really, really hard.
I'm sorry,
though.
I forget the name that you mentioned.
Recently, and I could tell that it was on the other side of a wall.
Takahashi.
It was in a closed pile,
for
and it
doing the
rattled the wall that it was
us,
nearby.
Jesus Christ.
I do also want to point out, I read an interview.
Which one was the one that we played a lot?
Wii Party U.
Takahashi.
Which was also pretty good. I don't think quite as good as Wii Party, but
talking about the contrast between silly and serious. He said that
it was fine. I think I didn't love the main
usually
board
people
mode.
This is from the Verge.
The bridge wasn't as good as Board Game Island.
But
usually people have different layers.
I keep on forgetting they did a sequel. Like the fact that they continued it shows like people like the first Wii Party, but like
perspective and different thoughts. Like I don't play video games, but
I understand.
There are so many contradictions.
New ideas. They're going to introduce new things for future consoles.
There are different things in the game, but I worry about
there's just something that was so inherently
fun. But for some reason, I need it.
The mini games themselves.
This man is amazing.
Just the board games and game modes that were
I absolutely
those mini games.
Adore him. Anyone else?
I think that like the mini games are probably like the best part of Mario Party.
To what time is.
And I'm sure that many people would probably argue like the mini games are better in Mario Party, but the modes themselves, like I just feel like Wii Party just did
genuinely
so much
enjoyed
better.
my time with this game.
And the fact that there were so many to choose from,
How,
even like you said, Walsh, like
wild
not all of them
hit,
but
very, very,
a good amount of them did to be like, oh no, this is a really solid party
game. And it is in many ways wholesome.
Wii Party had
like
a lot
putting
of really
putting the poop aside, I guess.
Yeah.
But even like you could, I guess
I agree. I think that's maybe like the one thing where people will probably be like,
it is such
Mario
a
Party's better than
strange
this. I'm just like, fuck you.
But I think
Mario
it's
Party
worth having.
Mario Party's not as good.
If you just want
fuck you, Mario Party's not as good.
If you partake, maybe the Devil's Lettuce wouldn't help either.
Just kidding. If you like it more, it's fine. That's where I stand.
You know, the disco asparagus,
the jazz cabbage.
Yeah, good stuff.
All that.
I love. Yeah, I.
But yes,
when you
the country cauliflower.
When you revisit us, Walsh, I should set up my Wii. So that way we can play Wii Party.
But that's what Tom.
It's a lot again.
And I thank you so much, Takahashi. But I hope he never stops making video games. I don't know where he is now.
We are going to move on to a game that I wouldn't usually consider a party game, but Anthony is about to deliver the case of why Call of Duty is a party game. Anthony, go ahead.
So I don't need to explain what Call of Duty is, right? Like we can just skip past that part.
Sure, yeah, I guess so.
Okay, cool.
Call of Duty is an JRPG.
All right, guys.
In which
I feel as though I set a very high bar with our Friendship Gardens episode and my recounting of my experience with My Little Ponies Friendship Gardens.
And I was
However,
like, all right, fine,
this
whatever,
game
I'll do it.
that I'm about to present to you,
we proceeded to play the game
I was playing not long after my experiences
school
with the Rainbow Bridge to the Castle in the Sky.
And
but I
could
not possibly convey in the amount of time I have here tonight.
Like
the amount of weird and all the little niche little pockets of fucky wucky that exist
there's this weapon
in The Sims
in Modern
Bustin'
Warfare
Out,
called the Riot
specifically
Shield.
the handheld GBA version.
You're like this turtle just walking
around. So just a little
around,
tech spec background info for y'all.
All bullets
its
coming
developer
at you.
was
Doesn't matter
Maxis,
where they're
publisher
coming
was
from,
EA Electronic Arts. Electronic Arts eventually bought out Maxis.
We would all get
but this was
Riot
published in
Shield
2003.
And just disperse
December
into
2003
an
is actually
online
when it came out.
And
the
it's so funny
ESRB rating is E for everyone for the
multiple Riot
GBA.
Shields.
I fucking contest
like
the shit out of that because
the
insinuations, sexual innuendos, and general adult content that exists in this, it should never have been rated E for everyone. And yet, there I was,
and we just fuck
young
around
little
with
Kelsey,
shit like this all
playing
the time.
the hell out of this. Most of it going over my head, honestly. And
we would all have
but nonetheless
launchers.
Found deep
and we would race to
satisfaction
see
and
who
humor
could
in
kill
it now
the
as an
most
adult, having
teammates
replayed
first.
it recently.
And they
so,
put you in time
my lovely husband
that
Anthony
would
set me up
last
with an emulator, and I just played through almost the
like,
entire
oh
game,
my
but
God,
I fucked it up for myself with screwing around with mods. Could not ultimately finish the game on my save, which was devastating. But then my brother, Chris, came in clutch at the end, played it through himself, and then we got to experience the ending together. So, front to back, top to bottom, holy shit, this was a wild ride. Oh my God, this was so weird. Oh my God, there's so many little nooks and crannies of amazing. And so I'm just gonna like start giving information over. So essentially the premise of the game is that you are your player character. You get to choose some of your qualities, some visual aspects, but we're talking an early 2000s GBA game. So like impressive for the time, I'm sure, but overall not a ton of
extended sick leave.
personalization that can go on. But essentially, you do show up on Uncle Hayseed's farm in Sim Valley. And the lore is that you're coming from the big city. You're moving in with Uncle Hayseed for the summer. It's supposed to be for the summer, quote unquote. I found out. I didn't realize that. Anyway, it feels like you're there for about 3 weeks, turn the town completely upside down, and then are kicked out.
So much fun. And
you show up,
later
you start having to do little odd jobs for Uncle Hayseed. You eventually grow beyond the farm and start doing little odd jobs and tasks for people in the immediate town. You start playing mini games that are in different locations. There are different specific locations in the whole of Sim Valley, and you eventually unlock the entire map.
But others were of
drinking age, tasks and assignments and missions become harder and harder and harder
because I guess that they wanted
until
to
you
really
play through all 5 chapters of the game.
We would
little
play
things, there's just little funky things that happen throughout the game that are very silly. Like, for example, there are recyclables that you collect that you just find around on the ground in the game. And so they have descriptions for all the items in your pocket. So one of the things you can pick up are nuclear fuel rods, which say these rods fuel a nuclear reactor. For some odd reason, they're laying around waiting for you to pick them up. Though this kind of radiation should make you glow, in this game you can safely pick them up. So it's like a little meta too that they do. But then even funnier on top of that is immediately next to the fuel rods, you'll see that there's a 3-eared mouse that you can pick up as well, and that description says these mice have 3 ears, whether caused by an errant genetic experiment or the effects of those fuel rods you're collecting, we may never know, but someone will want these things gathered up for safekeeping. So I think that it's funny how the game doesn't take itself too seriously and is very meta about everything.
When you get a kill,
possibly the most entertaining and bizarre aspect of the game is how you interact with other characters in the game. So ultimately, whenever you interact with a NPC,
if you get a kill, you move on to the next.
They all have their own unique personalities and unique representations, and in other, I believe in the console versions of this game, and then also in the sequel to this game, the Herbs,
of course, we were all shit-talking
Sims in the City.
And while they got drunk, they got progressively
each
worse
person kind of represents a particular
I just got really overhydrated.
Niche,
so I think that I was at an advantage there.
Oh my god, a click. Like, there's clicks. And so while those clicks are more specifically mapped out and people are actually assigned by name to them in other games, this is more just assumed. You have your people who are into the fitness, or your nerds, or your music artsy people, or whatever. But one of my favorites is Detective Dan DeMann. But like, you essentially go to talk to somebody and you get 5 specific options to speak with them in that moment. You pick whichever you think is best, and you're either going to have a neutral, positive, or negative reaction to that person. And one of your goals in the game is to build up or build down people's relationship bars with you. But some of the things that you can say to people are like very obviously sexual, and like, you can flirt with people, but some of it's like a little much for an E rating, and also some of it is just downright rude, and some of it didn't age well either. So for Dandy Man, something that you can say to him is, if I do something naughty, will you use your handcuffs?
In our office,
but you can also go pig. And I just think that that's incredible.
Good.
We had such a blast.
Yes, but I just think really funny.
And yeah, I know that Call of Duty is
there's one of the player characters you can interact with is Ephraim Earl, who's a ghost in this game and also in the sequel game, which I always think is a fun, quirky part of the game. Again, very bizarre.
I've always
another thing you can say, this is a little out of order, my screenshots, but another thing you can say to Detective Dandy Man is that a gun in your pocket? ... So again, things that are like rated E, funny, but like somebody didn't pay attention when they did that. I did see that there was another Warfare 2. I think it was called
in a few months, which is very weird.
But there's apparently there's another platform where you can play this game, and they rated it T for teen. And it was still the handheld, but it was I think it was in the UK or something. Their rating system was different.
I didn't realize.
Another bizarre thing in the game is something called the Velocity Rooster.
Separate from like just
and it's supposed to be like I don't know if Velocity is based off of like electricity or Velocity Rooster is in Velociraptor. I'm assuming the latter. But the legendary Velocity Rooster created in a Virtue Chem lab accident 23 years ago. The Velocity Rooster has genius level intelligence, a large ego, and a nasty temper. And for most of the game,
if you're walking around, if you happen to run into the Velocity Rooster, you faint on impact with the Velocity Rooster.
That has,
which is also the mechanic in the game. If any of your sim bars go too low, that would cause you to faint out in public, or if you go to repair an item and you faint, for whatever reason, when you faint, you make a terrible sound. But then
I respect what they did in the past for
comes out of literally nowhere and claps its hands, and you wake up in the hospital. I don't remember this genie being a factor. I think it might have been in Herbs. I don't know if it's in any of the other Sims content.
Like, hey, it's fun to as if go to war in a video game. Like, there's more silly stuff associated with it too.
No, I understand that, but is it in? So is it? That's throughout all of the Sims games.
That's
propaganda.
Through Herbs, at least.
Like it is
right. So you technically there's no die mechanic. You just faint. But like so, whenever you faint in Herbs and this, it only shows up in this one too. I do not know if it happens beyond those two games, and if they're in the console version as well as this. I have no idea. But it is like so hard for me to like make sure that I actually cover all the weird little shit. Again, a lot of it's like in the descriptions of things.
I think that's my big thing.
If you go to the docks and go to buy a treat at the little dock stand, there's something that you can buy called a dolphin pop.
Seriously, and also
and it says like old salty jokes that these are made from quote unquote real baby dolphins.
Yeah, like
these ice cold treats are just frozen juice. Really, so it's like these weird little
look at the game and are like, I don't play it for those reasons.
One of my favorite characters in the game is called Giuseppe Mazzualto, and he's supposed to be like this mobster character, and he shows up in both handheld games. I don't know if he shows up in other things in the series, but you essentially are somebody that he sells like
that's what
stolen shit Call of Duty man in an alleyway at night, but then otherwise he helps you move your things in.
What do they mean?
Buildings, which I think is hysterical.
What do they mean?
Application is he can just always break into everybody's house at any given time, and nobody questions it until a later mission that involves him. But that's what he looks like. And anytime you come into the alley when he's selling things, this really, really generic and stereotypical Italian like accordion and fiddle music is playing. It's fantastic.
And have programmed bots run around, and you can play.
So yeah, I just don't know how to properly convey
real life, except you don't
how weirdly bizarre this game is, other than getting right to the end. So if anybody really has any issues with spoilers and would not like to be involved with this next part of the conversation, you have my permission to leave. However, if you'd like to say, this is worth it. So
before you do the
and then at the same time,
I just want
Call of
initial
Duty,
reactions.
It was something that I remember, like I really tried to get into.
What do you guys think?
And I was the kid who I like playing the solo campaign because I didn't really have too many friends to play with. But then when I did, they're like, "Let's do zombies." I was like, I'm scared of the zombies. I didn't say that. I was like, no, I'm good.
I think my favorite thing was
the solo campaigns were really good. They were definitely a highlight of the series.
And the game, the solo. Like I think that was what I was kind of getting at with like. I think the solo campaigns specifically were the ones that like kind of changed gaming. Like, and so that's what made Call of Duty put it on the map. So one of my favorite things of watching how big of a deal is that those solo campaigns were closer to incredible. But they were also weren't without the controversies of like people off. What was the Modern Warfare 2 thing at -50 on the airport thing?
I'll explain that.
It was so difficult
were playing as
to
an
get
undercover
those characters to -50. Mainly the fishermen.
What's the word I'm looking for? Infiltrate a Russian terrorist cell.
I didn't have
connections.
as much problem with the fishermen, but I think the reason is
their plot.
I think he was in love with Kelsey's character.
Yes,
and so I think so he just took as like. I guess
the mission plays out
horny,
where
yes, absolutely, 100%. And like there are certain things that you know that if you're not very close to somebody, that they'll have a poor reaction to, and explicitly that is trying to tickle everybody for whatever fucking reason, in this game, you can literally threaten to tickle the shit out of everyone. So, like, this exact screenshot I'm about to share is of the fisherman that Chris was talking about, Phil McLean. And at this point, I don't even have, like, a high bar with him. But I'm like, I'll bet you're ticklish. And, like, the face on this guy is, like, he's, like, so ready.
Yeah, everything
like,
about
he's so aroused, and he's like, tickle me, mama. Like, it's so, like, he wants it. Where other people, if you're like, I'll bet you're ticklish, they're like, fuck off, please. Like, they do not like it. But he likes literally everything I did.
Again, like what they did for game design, but like
it's incredible.
Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I happen to have that.
There's a lot of layers to that just don't feel good.
So just another thread I'm going to pull here. Yeah. If you took Matt and you digitized him into a little task game, I think he would look like Phil McLean.
And now I disagree. I do not have brown hair,
my friend. Matt, we literally went through this. Like, he said this while I was playing it, and Gabe and I were like, what are you talking about? And nothing that we said could convince him otherwise, and, like, we do not see it. We don't see it.
My mustache is connected to the rest of my beard. Let me talk about my second favorite SpongeBob
we just don't
video
see
game
it,
of all
like,
time.
period. Like, regardless of feature, like, we don't see it, but he's, like, gonna die on this hill.
It is a party game for like
he literally
the
was like the head shape, the hair color, and we're like, since when?
And
like, since when does Matt have auburn hair? He's a blonde. Like,
audition for roles in a Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy movie.
No, you get to die alone.
You play all the mini games like separately. There's a few you like need to unlock.
Congrats. Anyway, I also shared the link to the trailer because it is like chef's kiss.
There are no boards. It's pretty much like
early
just
2000s
mini games,
bullshit.
but the way they
trailer
frame
for the GBA version,
story,
especially the fact
and trying to audition
but
for all these
especially
roles
in
a
the
really
fact
creative
that
way,
it is
especially
like
if you're like a fan of the SpongeBob series. Basically,
meant to look like you were playing
a
game. Like, it has
go
the
to
border.
all these different SpongeBob
it has
locations.
The bezel
I have a list of them.
The top part of a Game Boy Advance.
At each location, there's a set of stuff for you to do,
the trailer in.
or
like
a
so
set of
it
mini
is,
games
and it
for you
gives
to
you
do,
gameplay.
and
the song
you
that's
compete for the high
playing
score.
is like a very
and if
classic
you get the high
daytime
score
song for the game.
out of your party. For that location,
wonderful to watch. The actual words that come up over the trailer are in Comic Sans fonts.
You get the role for that location, for that scene in the movie.
It is unreal. And then just to go off of the tickling thing also, and for comparison's sake, I'm also going to drop in the trailer for the Sims Bustin' Out console version.
For example, you start out at the Krusty Krab,
and does not
and Bubble Bass is your host.
There's
also a different SpongeBob character outside of the player characters that hosts the competition.
But it actually says at one point, like,
so
one
Bubble
of the
Bass
things
hosts
that you can
the
do
Krusty Krab
is I
games,
think it
and
explicitly
the
highlights
role
that
that
you
you're
can tickle
auditioning
people.
for is the waiter.
And again, I'm not
none
really
of the characters
sure
are the main character
why
in the
that's
show.
such a prevalent thing.
Obsession with these developers.
It's Mermaid Man.
Yeah, I don't know why the tickling is like a thing.
Like they get that one role,
anyway,
that one part of the scene, and the characters you can play as SpongeBob, Patrick, Plankton, Mr. Krabs, Squidward, and Sandy.
This is wonderful brain scratching. It's like brain ASMR for anything that you want to experience as
there's computer
pure
players
early
as well,
2000s media. But absolutely bizarre. And I'm realizing that all of my little bizarre facts,
it is a fun time
from the other than the one that was from World War II.
Whenever I decided to like kind of play
almost all those weird little facts are also from the early 2000s.
And it's also got a lot of replayability, which I really appreciate, because if you play different characters
20 years ago
and then win them in that scene, they fit into the scene differently.
Right,
and they have different dialogue depending on the
welcome
depending
to the future,
on the person.
I guess.
So you can
I'm also
win
going to drop in here. So my last YouTube video I'm going to drop.
With different characters in different roles and see how they would interact differently.
Yes,
and then if you
there's
beat all
actually
three,
a
like
thing
you have to
sorry,
replay
Anthony
the
just
story
posted a
times,
screenshot
like a bronze,
timestamp
silver,
for
and gold,
the
and then
official
the goals
trailer
that you
of
have
the
to
Sims
get harder and it gets
console
harder and harder
version.
to actually
They
complete
have
it. It actually
things
gets
where
like
you are
stupid
literally
hard
farting
in the
in
gold
people's faces.
section. But when you do, you get a cool feature where you can like make your own movie.
I don't know if it's erotica. I don't know if it's like don't be my friend. I'm gonna fart in your face. I don't know.
If you get the most points overall, you get the coveted super villain role
of this,
where you get to be the sneaky hermit.
Or no, Herbs.
Version of the
sneaky
yeah,
the sneaky hermit.
So we're just gonna
who has a very tragic backstory about like losing his house, so he steals everything and puts it on the back of his shell.
But just like as a
you can only
decoration,
put so much on it before it all
a
falls down.
Means of gameplay in the console version, but we're not talking about the console version. So now the last YouTube thing I'm going to drop
this is one of the I think one of the premier
mini
games
of the Bustin' Out
each
GBA game. And I asked
location
everybody
also
to not
has some like
experience this
general themed mini games. So for example, the Sand Stadium
so that I could
hosted
verbally
by
explain
Swilly
it,
and Fancy Son
but I'm
music
providing it
rhythm
for
games.
you in the event that you want to have it on and
the
look
Krusty
at it
Krab
as you're
is
listening
all
to
like
me
restaurant-based
make the
games,
video,
and they're all like
that way
there's some mini games that are like every man for themselves, and then there's some that are 2v2. All the Krusty Krabs are 2v2. The Goo Lagoon has all beach mini games. Jellyfish Fields has all bad mini games.
You had to befriend a mass amount of people. You no longer can find Uncle Hayseed after a particular mission. He's no longer at his house.
It's a good,
but something
good
that
mix
did
of stuff.
happen is that you found.
I want to play, and then there's this one character
who
is
which was required for
the
one of the
host.
missions.
Or
in which
the
you found
producer,
a rocket ship
who's kind of putting
Uncle
everyone
Hayseed's
through
barn,
this
which
to
is
try
the
to
barn
figure out
that
who's
you
the best for the role.
stayed
And I want you
in
to hear his
the
voice.
Game. You
and then I want you
suddenly
to
walk in to find
a
trap door that you had seen previously, and in going down, you find underneath the barn a rocket ship.
Chris can cut this out.
You take the rocket ship because that's what you're supposed to do, and you go up to Uncle Hayseed.
But this is actually a well-known voice actor.
What's with that rocket ship that was in the barn? And he's like, I don't know anything about it, and then he just disappears. He's gone. He panics. He's like, you didn't see anything, and he fucking leaves. Not that the rocket ship. A couple other things happen, and you're essentially prompted for the last mission in the game, which requires you to go
not the voice actor
to
said.
the
That is a
mansion.
very good guess. It's not John
Leguizamo.
You
level up your housing forcefully. They force you to do it over time, and this is the last.
It's
and
fucking
you
Nolan
go into
North.
The house.
Oh my god!
To see that there is suddenly a rocket launch pad in the backyard. You don't know who that and you're like, guess I should put the rocket down.
He voices the main character in Uncharted, and then like a bunch of.
But then you have to repair it. And so you repair the rocket.
He's like the male Ashley Bird.
Then after you repair the rocket, it pans. I believe it pans to the house, and you see Uncle Hayseed is just standing in your house.
But yeah,
with
I really like the game. I really like.
So you go up to Uncle Hayseed, and he's like.
Obviously, the fun part, like when you're beating up on computer players, is like, your character has won every single role in the movie. So you kind of get to see your character in a bunch of things. I think Sandy is one of my more favorites to play as.
I'm so proud of you, and you're like, thanks, Uncle. That's great.
Just because
fantastic.
she's one of my more favorites.
And he's like, and you're on the ballot for mayor,
is also
which is
really funny
because
Plankton.
Like, yes, I am.
You can kind of see in the thumbnail, but Plankton does most of the mini games in this giant robot costume.
What?
To make it make sense for how he like interacts with everyone, but then in the scenes he's his small self,
and
so there's a lot of fun like playing with scale.
And he's like, this is no longer your home. I guess your mother didn't tell you that many years ago in the cornfields I found you and that rocket. Just in the cornfields, and it's not a coincidence that you restored it because you're one of a kind, and that's your rocket, and you need to get in it and leave. And you're like standing, and you're like, what? It is the most abrupt and quick interaction. It is so bizarre, and you don't even have choices for the dialogue. You just have to say like, I don't want to leave. I love it. It's my home. And then he's just like, you know what? The rocket's restored. Like it's time for you to go. If you're not in that rocket.
Gets their own solo
when
moment.
It takes off, you're going to regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually you'll regret it. It's so weird. Very cool. It's so strange, right? But yeah, like I just can't. Like it just comes out of nowhere. And for me and Chris, at the time that we would do the finale, because I remember it from one of my first playthroughs. When you are leveling up your relationship with people in the game, as long as you are friends with them and not romanced with them, there are these digitized smiley faces floating across the screen behind the character as like a loading screen almost behind them, so the entire time that he's threatening you that you need to get the hell out of Sim Valley, these smiley faces are just really ominously and creepily floating behind him. I'm going to send a screenshot. Really weird and very unsettling. And so essentially the dialogue ends with you saying like, I understand, because you have no other option, and then it forces you into a cutscene where you're no longer controlling your character. Everybody that you've made friends with in the town is suddenly at the mansion, and they've made like almost like a wedding reception, everybody on either side of the aisle, and they're all like cheering you on to go to the rocket. I don't know why everybody's involved. I didn't know everybody knew this. Like very bizarre, very strange. You go all the way, Daddy Big Bucks is standing there because he gave you some sort of grant for something, and you load yourself in the rocket.
and you shoot up into the sky.
I was going to comment on
then there's a frame where it's like so zoomed out and looking over the earth. Your rocket goes up in the air. Then it like makes a noise, 180s, and dives back into the earth, and the game is over. Credits roll.
At least for me, it was PlayStation 2. And you just hear the ah.
You hear the screaming noise, and that's literally it. The game ends. Credits roll, and it all happens with under 2 minutes.
I've only ever played the game one time, and that was
like Matt, that is literally just the finale. That's what happens.
It was one of the endings of all time.
You said Jellyfish Fields was the one that sucked, right?
It is just such a strange game.
Yeah.
Like as soon as we said bizarre, and I wasn't quite sure what to talk about, and Christopher mentioned offhand to me, he's like,
the jail one
remember
that had the seahorse soccer
that had the
where you hammer the
I was considering
you hammer the rocks
because that was the one I was more familiar with, the one that I played both the GBA and the DS versions. And really loved some aspects of it that I knew were bizarre and that I could really talk about. But when I got the emulator and started playing, I was like, you know what, I'll just start with
one minigame is just like
for sure if I've ever actually completely
that
finished
is
it.
one of my favorite ones.
Man, am I glad
it's
that
also
I did.
It's also weird because like
I played it because
the mini games are all usually like 3 to 5 minutes long.
And I kind of
so like each one you do, it's a fucking investment.
Yeah.
And when there's 3 per area plus all the cutscenes, like you're in an area for probably like 20 to 25 minutes
and restriction
each time. So you're not going to get through unless you're like you put aside like an afternoon and evening for it. You're not going to get through like a full campaign in one day, which I think is interesting.
Did I play this?
I'm on the. You may have on the. I mean, it's a PlayStation 2 game.
Parts of it are familiar to me, but not like the whole thing.
Yeah, when they make it might have been something that like I picked up together to play. Down again. I don't know if you were. I don't know if you played like a whole. I played the sessions again. Like I finally
your memory about our childhood more than mine. So.
Thought that. Yeah, I would have probably said that we did not play it, but if you remember parts of it, there's a good chance that maybe we did.
Have these
check it out.
Mini games that could feel a little repetitive. You have to keep taking care of yourself. The dialogue.
All right, so there's 6 of us. There's 6 of us in the group. And I want to end by giving assigning these 6 SpongeBob characters to the 6 of us.
Enjoy. And I love this.
Let me type them out.
Games, obviously.
I mean, this is audio format, dude.
But just so we can keep it up. So SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, Plankton, Mr. Krabs, and Sandy.
Sure. I see. So
I don't want to get stuck with the only female character just because I'm female.
Right. That's what I was thinking. That was my initial thought of I don't necessarily want to do that.
Gabe is Plankton.
On the level of oh my god, where the herbs would be, but just something different.
Is that true?
I just love how much
you want to steal our formula.
The weird.
He literally called me a target earlier. I'm not letting that go.
Nostalgia growing up playing.
I feel like Kelsey's definitely not Sandy because I feel like Sandy is like this Texas head, and that's not Kelsey.
But she's not though. She's also like a scientist.
She's very intelligent. She has a good wit.
A very intelligent person.
I know, but
she's also just very Texas proud, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Also, there's nobody in this group that's definitely. So if that's going to be your guideline, nobody's going to fit it.
Well, the reason why I say it like that because I don't know. There is at one point where
also should we not be using that word? It's a bad word.
I'm laughing at the fact that it is aged so.
I know. And then another thing was like just a couple of things that I'm finding in my screenshots. One of the insults you can call when somebody's calling them a programmer. Which I think is just really programmer. Alright, just really funny. Also, Sandy and somebody's going to be 2 Mr. Krabs. The fact that there's an entire sewer system under the town that you unlock that you can use to get around.
I don't think that was intentional
just,
on the writers and voice actors.
I understand. I'm just saying it was one of those recently playing about BFBB, and I heard them say that. I was just like, whoa, wait a second.
One of the things that you can say
hold your root tootin' horses.
You can ask him to pull your throat, which is in your hoity-toity sliced bread. Definitely a potty humor.
I can say I can accept Squidward.
And real quick, just to touch on
because clarinet
games like
because clarinet
yes
and fine artsy
for the mini games.
Okay,
and that's how you earn your money in the game essentially. The one that I personally love the most.
I will take,
that's harder than I thought.
I will take Sandy for reasons other than being female.
His lawn. Now,
sure.
I'm just.
I mean, you are also smart.
Kelsey,
yes.
Like we
can either work like this. You ready? Is there any ones so far that are like, this one's definitely that person?
How the
and if not,
mowing
then
game works is that you just mow like these
patches
of grass.
See, I would have given Mr. Krabs
There's also these flower beds that you have to avoid hitting
because you're like the tightest about money
that you have earned.
Actually,
and like a substantial amount of money, like it's a problem.
Yes.
I don't know. Chris might also be Mr. Krabs.
And the mower doesn't really control well.
I'm only tight about Gabe's money.
That's fair.
You can level up
because Gabe's not tight about his money.
Basically, there's promotions in the game. So if you have a certain amount of skills,
what is Mr. Krabs' character other than money?
Capitalism, being a dad.
Game, you
get
they add
I'm a dog
more
dad.
difficulty to it where there's more
I feel like
Anthony's a cat.
I feel like this inevitably has to end with
the chickens are just
Walsh
running around
and Anthony being
SpongeBob
around.
And the assumption would be that you need to fucking avoid them because oh my god, don't kill the chicken.
I don't know.
Don't run over the chicken.
Chris
You lose
feels
money.
like SpongeBob and Anthony feels like Patrick to me.
No,
Chris is such a SpongeBob though.
You could just mow over the chicken and nothing bad.
Chris, who would you otherwise have given running over chicken? You're not really as forward or like my name is Krabs. Maybe Mr.
You don't
Krabs.
Slow down. No penalty for running over chicken is the name of the.
Am I Sandy? Am I the Texas hick of
I think that
I will take Mr. Krabs.
Nothing bad happened, but the flower bed.
I think that there's
that's
really good
intentions.
Don't touch the precious
unfortunately,
roses.
it's not a
The chickens,
more of a Venn
totally
diagram
fair game
or a pie chart
Yeah.
for everybody. I think everybody get a pie chart of characters.
You level up.
Even
in
though
all
Gabe
the
is
games,
very
and so,
specifically planted in it.
Oh yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
No, that's
I'm gonna-
resolved. You're level 2.
I'm gonna
I don't know.
put together a list
There's so much.
just to have it.
There's just so
And
much.
then you
There's so many
you
layers.
tell me
And I
what-
agree
what
with you
y'all
on
think.
the developing something new and interesting in modern
will
Sims
say, I'll
era.
take the L and I'll take Mr.
Because
Krabs, I
I've
am
been playing
very
Sims 4 for months now, and literally the most interesting thing for me is just to log in, create a new save, build a new house, and then I never progress the character because I am not compelled
Put A to Y.
at all
love you,
by any other part of the game. I literally am just into building the houses. And one last thing, if I can just mention it, because I forgot that this person was even in the Sims Bustin' Out GBA. I only remember them from the Herbs.
I would be
there is a
SpongeBob,
character
Matt would be
that shows
Squidward,
up
and then,
randomly in the
Kelsey
Game Boy
would be
Advance or Nintendo DS
Sandy.
versions of only Sims Bustin' Out and only the Herbs Sims in the
For
city.
the
I do not
intelligence
believe
reasons and not
that
the
they ever show up anywhere in any other Sims platform game.
female
And
identity.
they
I
are
just
didn't
want
ninja
I apologize to
formally-
Sandy.
that shows up
didn't wanna
in the
get
very,
formally
very, very
lumped
early
into
morning
Sandy
of the
just because
hours,
she's the
and
girl
you
and I'm
can
the girl.
pay.
I
yeah.
apologize to
That's
Sandy
all.
for
for
I apologize to
random
Sandy
weird
for
little
calling
things
her
that
a
are
Texas
bonuses
hick. I
in
forgot
the
about
game,
the science
and it's much more prevalent in
aspect
the
of her
Herbs,
personality.
SimCity, Sims
I
in
am
City, but
Sandy.
apparently they were
Kelsey,
also in
there's a
Sims
whole
Bustin' Out.
episode
And my
about
favorite
the
thing about this
stereotyping
character is that they are a secret
I
ninja
know. I
whose
literally.
name is
I know.
Heidi Shadows.
But you know what? Texas is stupid. Look at fucking who's living that state. All right.
And
Plants
Heidi
from
Shadows
Texas
exists in
are
both
dumb.
games. I completely forgot about them being in Bustin' Out.
Shoes from Texas
But they
are
are absolutely there, and they quite literally
yes.
just stand there,
Anyways,
and you can interact with
that's-
them.
Well,
Only
this
when
is
you
the
can
thing
find
that
them.
happened.
That's the thing.
That was the thing we did.
We categorized everyone as SpongeBob characters, and that's how we close out today's episode. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, I do
for
remember
tuning
it
in
from
for
Herbs,
2
but I
years.
forgot that it was even a
Appreciate
thing,
you
and I
all.
absolutely
I
never came
really
across
appreciate
them
everyone
in Bustin'
here
Out when I played.
for
But
sticking it
to be
throughout
fair, they're only
the
available
past
for
2
an
years
hour
and
on
being
any given
part of
day.
it. Next month,
And
in
only
honor of my
twice a
birthday.
week.
I don't know why I'm
And
saying
that game, the timing
you
mechanic of
doxed
the game goes
yourself.
so quickly that you can go from one corner of the game
I
to
don't
the
know
other
if
and
that's
then spend an hour
considered
doing
doxing, but
stuff.
sure.
yourself.
So, anyway, I know this wasn't as
are
like knee
gonna
slappingly
talk about my
hilarious as the
favorite
Friendship
genre
Gardens, but
of
wow,
games.
was this something?
Wholesome games.
It's an experience.
Games, and this
It is.
it could be vague. All right, I
Any
totally
final
understand
thoughts
that.
from
It could be
anyone
that
on the Sims
you could
Bustin'
talk
Out?
about probably any game and then
Kelsey,
argue
if you
that
do
it's
like
wholesome in
the
some
building
ways, and
homes
that's
aspect
fine.
of things, I
Because it's about love.
100%
There you
recommend
go.
playing My Sims
There
because
you
that's
go.
basically most of the game.
Golf.
Cool.
Talk about Stardew Valley.
Isn't that an origin
'Cause it's
story of how this little
wholesome.
friendship group
Yeah.
was founded?
I get it,
Essentially.
Anthony.
Yeah, it's among
Same
games,
wavelength.
I would say.
Yep.
So
That's
that is our
You
September
can get it on Origin.
show for you. So
Oh,
make
cool.
sure to
If you wanna
send
get it
us
legally.
your wholesome favorite wholesome.
Well, we're
game.
all about being
If
on the
you
up and
pay
up here,
attention
except
to us
for
and
Right.
Walsh's
Also,
little
I
side,
haven't said this.
side thing we talked
Yeah,
about
but
earlier.
we're still
but-
doing. We're still saying, Supreme
all
Court,
right.
donate to your
Well,
local abortion clinic and
that
send your fucking
is that. That is your weird
donation
games.
receipt
We
to
are
us.
approach. Still doing that.
Yeah.
You should be talking about that more. That's on me. Just fucking please do that.
So
next
we'll
episode,
shout you out
I had a few ideas for
show.
that I was thinking about, but
we need to close it out here.
Thank you all so much for listening.
Like people would be
enthusiastic about a Gaming Coop about party games. So
The Gaming Coop is brought to you by Team Chaos Productions. Follow us on Twitter at The Gaming Coop, or follow our other work at Team Chaos Pods.
So let's do that. Party games will be our August episode of The Coop.
Woo!
And yeah, thank you all so much for listening. Anything that anyone would like to say before we go?
I actually really love Walsh very much, and I'm sorry for everything I've said that was defamatory.
I'm sure he doesn't mind, but at the same time,
I legally want to put out there, this is a legal statement. I am hereby genuinely sorry for anything I said that was defamatory, other than what was the truth.
Goddamn. All right. Anyways, yeah. Thank you all so much for listening. Game on.
The Gaming Coop is brought to you by Team Chaos Productions. Follow us on Twitter at The Gaming Coop, or follow our other work at Team Chaos Pods.